Chapter 1669. Recalling what this scoundrel had done to her, Princess Xingyue blushed in anger and rebuked Lin Chen angrily. Shameless. Lin Chen shrugged. Just a little. Rumble. The terrifying aura was like a five-clawed golden dragon soaring in the sky. The aura of the golden dragon shone brightly and filled the entire hall. A middle-aged man in a golden dragon robe stepped into the hall from outside. The pure divine dragon bloodline aura crushed towards Lin Chen. "Oh, are you here for me?" Lin Chen said nonchalantly, crossing his arms in front of his chest. Princess Xingyue exclaimed in surprise. "Fourth uncle, you're here." The middle-aged man's facial features stood out. He was cold and stern. He stared at Lin Chen for a few breaths before he turned to Elder Tong Xian and the four dragon kings in the hall. He cupped his hands and said, "Elders, this king does not agree with letting such a dangerous human into the divine dragon's relic." This person was one of the dragon kings of the Imperial Golden Dragon tribe. He had just arrived recently, and although he did not participate in the high-level meeting, his words carried a lot of weight. Elder Tong Xian said calmly, "Universe Dragon King, tell us your opinion." The Universe Dragon King swept his gaze across the divine dragon descendants present with a piercing gaze. So many divine dragon descendants present have been injured because of this child. This proves that this child's battle prowess has already completely threatened the lives of the god's descendants of the same generation. It's true that he can help the god's descendants. However, this is only his side of the story. What if he goes back on his word? In the divine dragon plane, our dragon kings and dragon sovereigns need to maintain the plane passage from the outside world. Only the god's descendants can enter. At the mention of this matter, the Universe Dragon King's eyes glowed with a golden light. He glared at Lin Chen from his illusory dragon breath palm. What if he betrays us after he enters? What if he finds an opportunity within the divine dragon plane to launch a sneak attack on our god's descendants? Who will bear the responsibility then? As soon as he said this, he hit the nail on the head. Combined with Lin Chen's methods and combat strength, putting him in would indeed be a ticking time bomb for the dragon clan. In a split second, the elders of the various clans surrounded Lin Chen silently, as if they were waiting for an order to capture Lin Chen. The divine dragon descendants also retreated to the side with the mentality of watching a good show. The Universe Dragon King sneered. Furthermore, if he has some sort of backup plan left behind by the true god of the human race and his goal is to destroy our divine dragon plane, then you won't have the face to face the mighty divine dragons. It was as if the Universe Dragon King was about to kill Lin Chen. He took a step forward, his killing intent surging. Therefore, the correct approach should be to kill the guy on the spot, take back the bloodline of the ancient dragon, and dig out his secrets. Boom, boom, boom. Waves of ruthless and savage auras soared into the sky, lingering around the Dragon King Palace. The auras of the dozens of elders of the various clans were so strong that they were not inferior to the human race's 7 or 8 transformation sages. Lin Chen narrowed his eyes and suddenly smiled. Am I going to obtain another wave of attribute light balls? Stop. Elder Tong Xian waved his sleeves, and a thin strand of dragon chi shot into the air, dispersing the killing intent of the elders and forcing them to take 3 steps back. He appeared in front of the Universe Dragon King in an instant and said indifferently, "I only asked you to give your opinion, not to do anything else." Lin Chen smiled casually. Elder Tong Xian and the other revered dragons, settle this matter and think of a compromise. I can increase the quota from before to 2, no, 4. The moment he said this, the Dragon Kings and revered dragons present were both surprised and overjoyed. Increase the quota by 4 more? Didn't that mean that they also had a chance to upgrade their bloodlines? Universe Dragon King, I feel that what you said earlier was inappropriate. That's right, your words are also one-sided. This old man also has something to say. I don't want you to think, I want me to think. The higher-ups revered dragons had almost openly switched sides to Lin Chen's side, causing the elders of the various clans to be dumbfounded. Princess Xingyu's almond-shaped eyes widened slightly. What kind of bewitching potion did this Lin Chun feed the Dragon Clan's higher-ups to make them stand on his side so loyally? She questioned Lin Chun. What do you mean by 2 and 4? Lin Chun shrugged. Oh, the so-called 2 or 4 is actually the higher-ups' hope that I can recommend more handsome and strong humans like me to make friends with the Dragon Clan. The more I recommend, the more they will like me. I negotiated with them for 4 handsome guys, and there might be another 4 handsome guys coming in the future, understand? Princess Xingyu. Like hell I'll believe you. The elders' mouths twitched. Recommend 4 handsome guys? Definitely not. This human was so shameless. His skin was even thicker than the southwest dragon wall. In the end, after a round of argument, both sides finally chose a compromise. The Imperial Golden Dragon Clan would be responsible for planting a dragon seal in Lin Chen's body. The right to use the dragon seal would be given to a divine dragon descendant. Once the dragon seal was activated and released, it could instantly severely injure Lin Chun and give him a fatal injury. Only when Lin Chun accepted the Imperial Golden Dragon Seal could he enter the Divine Dragon Plane. Lin Chun accepted it without any pressure. Moreover, the next day, he gave 4 more slots to the Dragon Clan's higher-ups according to the agreement. He was a man of his word. Regarding this, Lin Chun said indifferently, "It's just a strengthening +1, no problem." Lin Chen's fulfillment of his promise won the hearts of the Dragon Clan's higher-ups. The slots for the main competition were quickly determined. Outside the secret chamber, when Lin Chen returned, there was a beautiful and graceful figure waiting for him outside the secret chamber. Lin Chen was stunned. He still remembered this woman. She was the Azure Dragon Clan's princess, Mu Tianqing. When Mu Tianqing saw Lin Chen return, she said nervously, Prince Lin Chen, I'm the Azure Dragon Clan's Mu." Lin Chen smiled. Mu Tianqing, right? I've heard of you. Mu Tianqing was flattered. She bowed slightly and said, Young Master Lin Chun, have you heard of my Green Dragon tribe? When Lin Chun participated in the 10,000 Dragons Conference, he had been possessed by a divine dragon the entire time. Even the mighty figures of the Dragon Clan could not detect it. So Mu Tianqing did not recognize Lin Chen's original body. Lin Chen smiled playfully. Because I have a friend called Gil Ing Bang Bang. Mu Tianqing was pleasantly surprised. Prince Lin Chen knows him? Or where is he now? Lin Chen laughed and casually threw a Providence plant pouch and the dragon scale that belonged to the king of 10,000 dragons to Mu Tianqing. He stepped into the secret chamber and closed the door. When Mu Tianqing received the dragon scale and the Providence plant pouch, her delicate body trembled, and her beautiful eyes revealed intense shock and surprise. Following that, a brand new power surged into her body. Her ancient sky-raising dragon bloodline grade actually soared by more than 2 times. This is... Mu Tianqing's beautiful eyes rippled, and her heart palpitated. This strange feeling of raising one's bloodline was exactly the same as when the Azure Dragon Clan was annihilated. Could it be that Prince Lin Chun is... Chapter 1670. Inside the special secret room, Lin Chun opened the luck plant pouch. Dazzling starlight flashed one after another and floated in front of Lin Chun. The energy was as vigorous as a star core, and the beautiful and translucent odd crystal was releasing energy that could distort space. These odd crystals were all high-grade odd crystals. Lin Chun kept most of the odd crystals below high-grade for refining medicine. As for high-grade odd crystals, if the quantity reached a certain level, it would still be a huge improvement for Lin Chun. After all, he was only at the transformation realm of the 5th level of the Sage Realm. Since ancient times, there had never been a transformation realm that could control a high-grade odd crystal. Although I'm in a sealed state now, as long as I activate my clones, I can refine the energy and it won't affect my absorption. I haven't absorbed an odd crystal for a long time. I wonder how much foundation I can increase with this upgrade for the next time I condense my acupoints. Lin Chun opened his mouth and absorbed a high-grade odd crystal into his sacred body. Host has received 4 million sacred grade essences 10 sacred grade fire energy, for million sacred grade essences. Lin Chen's sacred essence attribute sword, as the 7 clones efficiently refine the energy of the high-grade odd crystals. In less than half an hour, after completely absorbing a high-grade odd crystal, Marshal Lin was shocked. So high-grade odd crystals could give so many attribute points. Ha ha ha! A high-grade odd crystal gave me more attribute points than killing a late-stage heaven-opening realm. This is too awesome. Lin Chen laughed and was excited. Just the foundation accumulated by Ean's Son of Heaven and the embryonic form of the odd crystals that are about to condense. I can have more than 2,000 high-grade odd crystals in a short period of time. Awesome. The next time I condense my acupoints, I will have more confidence. Lin Chen released more than a dozen high-grade odd crystals and began to absorb them. After absorbing the sacred blood and chi attributes of the injured divine dragon descendants, the sacred dragon's current pure power was 130,000 venerable power, which increased by another 10,000 venerable power. 7 days later, outside the Dragon King Hall, many dragon race experts gathered. The upper echelons of the dragon race were all present, and the dragon kings representing the various races were all present. As a human, Lin Chen stood out among the 69 descendants of the mystical dragons. He lowered his head and looked at the golden dragon seal on his palm. It was lifelike and had a pure dragon aura. Once it erupted, it was enough to kill any fourth revolution saint. This dragon seal was engraved into Lin Chen's body, threatening his life at all times. Furthermore, in order to guard against him, the dragon clan did not tell him which descendant of the divine dragon was in control of the dragon seal. This was to prevent him from targeting them after he entered. As long as he had this dragon seal, most of Lin Chen's life would be in the hands of the dragon clan. If he dared to attack the dragon clan, he would definitely be devoured. The corners of Lin Chen's mouth rose slightly. You're still a bit lacking if you want to control my life. This dragon seal needs dragon blood to activate, and it takes a little time. The moment it's activated, as long as I escape into the space-time plane, the connection with the dragon seal will be cut off, and I won't be able to activate it. On top of that, my body still has the demonic imprint that Yaoer left behind. Using the demonic imprint to erase the dragon imprint is a piece of cake. Although the dragon seal was strong, it was still lacking compared to the legendary demon empress. There was no such thing as a threat to him, Lin Chen. The only thing that could threaten Lin Chen was the dragon clan's divine dragon. Rumble. A vast and ancient giant door slowly appeared. The giant door was majestic, and dragon patterns were carved on both sides, as if a divine dragon was flying in the sky. Seeing this divine dragon door, all the dragon clan members were in awe. It was as if the divine dragon had descended. Above the divine dragon door was a beam of light that could split heaven and earth, connecting to the other side of the dragon world. As the representative of the upper echelons, Elder Tongxian stepped out. As he looked around, he formed a seal with both hands. With a flick of his finger, a beam of orange light traveled through the void and exploded into countless flames. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Above the heads of all the divine dragon descendants, there was an orange flame burning, including Lin Chen. At this time, Lin Chen was in the state of being possessed by the divine dragon. To enter the divine dragon dimension, one needed the pure bloodline of the divine dragon descendants. This was because after passing through the divine dragon dimension's periphery, there would be a large number of divine dragon remains left behind. One had to use the divine dragon bloodline to withstand it. Otherwise, it would be difficult to withstand the divine dragon ancestors' pressure and end up being killed. This included any living beings with intelligence in the Providence plant pouch. Therefore, Lin Chen's operation this time was light. He only brought a small amount of necessities. Even Bai Qianqian did not bring it with her. Elder Tongxian said loudly, "The divine dragon relic will only open for about half a year. Remember, the dragon clan's providence fire above your heads represents the time that the dragon clan ancestors will protect you. There are natural insect, clan, poisonous, miasma, and gas in the divine dragon dimension. The longer you stay, the deeper the dragon clan's providence fire will be corroded. After half a year, the elders and I will help you stabilize the space passage and leave as soon as possible. For the top experts, a few years passed in the blink of an eye. To the descendants of the divine dragon, the time limit of half a year was as short as a few days. Elder Tong Xian continued, "If you encounter any mishap that causes the dragon clan's providence fire to disappear, immediately use the space scroll that I've given you. You can open a space passage and leave in advance. Once you lose your providence fire, your location will most likely be discovered by the strongest insect clan in the divine dragon relic. At that time, not only will you be in danger of losing your bloodline, but your lives will also be in danger." After Elder Tong Xian made his announcement, the elders immediately placed the space jade slips in front of each descendant of the divine dragon. If you use the space jade slips to leave in advance, you will not be able to take away any opportunities or treasures you obtained in the divine dragon relic. This means that you will gain nothing. This is your last resort. If there are no mishaps, the divine dragon dimension will automatically open a space passage and send you back after 6 months. Elder Tong Xian said seriously, "Finally, let's talk about our dragon clan's new friend, Lin Shun from the human race. Everyone, remember, if you encounter any danger, you can ask Lin Shun for help. He will do his best to help you. This is the rule that he and our higher-ups have set." Elder Tong Xian even introduced Lin Shun in a grand manner, making him feel embarrassed. He even stood in front of the divine dragon gate to let everyone see his handsome face more clearly. It is forbidden to kill members of the same race in the divine dragon dimension. If you violate the rules, you will be dealt with according to the rules. I hope you can obtain the guidance of the divine dragon ancestors this time. Let's go. Elder Tong Xian waved his sleeves, and the divine dragon gate opened with a creak. Whoosh! Everyone with the dragon clan's providence fire above their heads turned into a stream of light and entered the space passage. "Everyone, it's up to you now." Elder Tong Xian pushed his palm, and the higher-ups of the dragon clan acted together to stabilize the space passage to the divine dragon dimension. The light pillar above the divine dragon gate continued to shine brightly. All the divine dragon descendants and Lin Shun were sent to an extremely distant dimension and star system. In the space passage, Lin Shun looked at the end of the passage. It was actually a vast nebula. This nebula looked like a divine dragon dancing under the universe. Its size was indescribable. Putting the Jojo continent in it, it would only be a speck of dust in the nebula. This is the divine dragon relic. The great war between the dragon clan and the insect clan started again. This time, I wonder if I can find the whereabouts of the ancient primordial dragon bloodline. There was no branch of the ancient primordial dragon in the current dragon clan. This mysterious ancient dragon was the same as the ancient primordial dragon. Its existence was extremely rare in the antiquity age. The divine dragon relic might be Lin Chen's last chance. Chapter 1671. Lin Shun didn't know that a few days after he entered the divine dragon relic, the Grand Supreme Elder of the Dragon Tribe, who hated humans the most, had just arrived outside the Dragon King Palace. 4 days later. Whoosh! Rumble! With a loud noise, Lin Shun and the other divine dragon descendants landed in the divine dragon nebula, a small grayish-brown continent floating in the void. Lin Shun waved his fist. Other than slightly distorting the space, there were no other changes. He was amazed. What a hard space barrier. It's 10,000 times more stable than the space in the dragon world. Once Lin Shun released his primordial spirit power, the range of his perception was quite limited. However, Lin Shun continued to release his primordial spirit power to see further, trying to figure out the location before moving. The hazy starlight around him was in the shape of clouds, which could block the perception of saint power and dragon aura. It also had a serious impact on the primordial spirit. The entire plane is filled with the divine dragon's aura. If ordinary humans enter, they really can't withstand this aura and explode. However, I have the Tai Sky technique. No divine aura can suppress my real body. At critical moments, I can still use my real body to fight with my clone. Lin Chen's gaze turned. His primordial spirit power seemed to have sensed a ray of light. It's the light of the attribute light ball. Release more primordial spirit power in that direction. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A series of afterimages flashed, and some dragons left the team. Out of the 69 descendants of the Divine Dragon, 19 of the strongest Divine Dragon bloodline left the group. When they left, their eyes were full of disdain. They glanced at Lin Chen a few times as if they were looking at a dead person. Among them, there was no lack of ancient dragon descendants who were full of hostility and killing intent toward Lin Chen. There were even some who coveted his ancient Taishi dragon bloodline. However, now was not the time to fight. There were not many opportunities to find opportunities in the Divine Dragon relic. They had to seize every second. Among the Divine Dragon descendants, there were also many who were wary of Lin Chen. They didn't even want to get close to him, let alone ask him to protect them. Lin Chen smiled indifferently. It seems that there are quite a few people who want to kill me. If this place wasn't the Divine Dragon ruins, but some other plane, I'm afraid they would have already started fighting. These descendants of the Divine Dragon knew the spatial coordinates of their ancestral Divine Dragon. Once they landed, they began to form small teams and began to move. Only Luo Shueiyue didn't move. She quietly stood next to Lin Chen and helplessly said, "Who told you to be so high profile from the start? You even came with an ancient dragon palanquin." Someone Lin said in all seriousness, "We don't have to fight. Girls, you don't have to chase them. There was no need to earn money. It was okay for a person to not be handsome. But you have to be cool." Luo Shueiyue face-palmed. This person was beyond saving. At this time, there was also a beautiful woman standing to the left of Lin Chen. She was wearing a gorgeous starry robe, and she was noble and elegant. She was a national beauty. Lin Chen whistled and said with a teasing smile, "Dragon princesses on both sides. I don't even believe in my luck with women." Princess Xingyue glanced at him and sneered, "Don't even think about breaking your pig brain. I'm here to monitor you." Lin Chen pretended to be frightened and retreated. He said in shock, "Peep, peep, what kind of position is this? I'm a little scared." Princess Xingyue was angered by him for a second. She gritted her teeth and said, "Lin Chen, do you want to die? If you dare to talk nonsense again, I'll kill you on the spot." Princess Xingyue raised her hand, and a dragon seal with golden light circulated in her delicate palm. Lin Chen was stunned. Good heavens, he had actually caught a big fish with this teasing. Princess Xingyue was the one who held the dragon seal among the descendants of the Divine Dragon. As long as she wanted, the dragon seal could erupt in Lin Chen's body and threaten his life. Seeing this scene, the other descendants of the Divine Dragon hurriedly protected Princess Xingyue, afraid that Lin Chen would find out and immediately attack. A female divine descendant rebuked, "Sister Xingyue, why are you?" Only then did Princess Xingyue realize that she had lost her composure and immediately put away the dragon seal. The princess thought to herself, "How could I be so careless? I exposed the dragon seal to him." Lin Chen said with a playful smile, "Don't worry, I'm not interested in you. If I wanted to, I would have already made a move. Your Princess Xingyue has long been afraid of me, the kind of slapping." Princess Xingyue's almond-shaped eyes widened in anger. Boom! Her dragon aura shattered the dust around her, and she wanted to slap Lin Chen. "Sister Xingyue, Lin Chen is just joking. Don't take it to heart." Luo Shueiyue blocked in front of the two. Princess Xingyue snorted coldly and retracted her palm. She was afraid that if she looked at Lin Chen, she would attack. The other descendants of the Divine Dragon stared at Princess Xingyue in surprise. Princess Xingyue had always been calm and sensible. Why was it that she was so easily angered recently? "Got it." Lin Chen snapped his fingers and his eyes lit up. He said excitedly, "I found it." Luo Shueiyue was puzzled. "What did you find?" Lin Chen smiled. "Light. All the divine descendants. Lin Shen did not say anything and stepped into the air. At this moment, other than the 9 divine dragon descendants beside him, including Luo Shueiyue, all the other divine dragon descendants had fled. Lin Shen smiled playfully. Since these people won't bring me along, I'll play by myself. Luo Shueiyue exclaimed. Where are you going? Lin Shen laughed and said, I found a good place. Do you want to come with me? Luo Shueiyue hesitated for a moment and immediately followed. The 7 divine dragon descendants beside her looked at each other and then at Princess Xingyue. Princess Xingyue gritted her teeth. We can't let him run like this. If he sneaks up on other dragons, only we can stop him. Follow him. The 8 of them followed closely behind. With the dragon clan's fire of providence above their heads, they flew under the starry sky with Lin Shen. Beautiful and dazzling auroras sometimes pierced through the starry sky and sometimes disappeared, forming beautiful scenes in the nebula. The divine dragon descendants did not dare to admire it too much. There were too many hidden dangers in the divine dragon nebula. If they were not careful, the remnants of the insect clan might appear. However, after flying for less than 20 breaths, Lin Shen seemed to have sensed something and suddenly looked back. When he saw the small continent that he had just landed on, his pupils contracted. It was actually a gigantic dragon scale. This dragon scale was even 1/5 the size of the spiritual state continent in the mortal world. The continental plate that I was standing on just now was actually a dragon scale. Lin Shen was dumbfounded. A dragon scale was comparable to a continental plate. How strong was a divine dragon at its peak? Wait a minute. Lin Shen felt as if he had been struck by lightning. A thought instantly appeared in his mind. This divine dragon scale has lost its divinity. The owner of the dragon scale must have died countless years ago. If that's the case, Lin Shen remembered a function of the system, the decomposition function. Chapter 1672. Decomposition Function. This function was hidden in the corner of Lin Shen's system. It wasn't that Lin Shen didn't use it, but that Lin Shen's level was too high, and the decomposition function couldn't break through the limit for a long time, resulting in many limitations. The decomposition function would directly consume one of Lin Shen's most important attributes, Heaven's Path Points. Firstly, items with an owner couldn't be decomposed. Secondly, items with spiritual energy couldn't be decomposed. Thirdly, items with life or consciousness couldn't be decomposed. For example, the divine dragon totem that had entered during the myriad dragons assembly had its own spirituality and consciousness, so Lin Shen couldn't decompose it. Even if an item had a wisp of its owner's consciousness, the system couldn't decompose it. Almost all the experts and levels that Lin Shen came into contact with in the later stages of the sacred boundary had their own consciousness attached to their items or treasures that they had left behind. He couldn't erase their powerful consciousness. Furthermore, the amount of attribute points that could be extracted from the mental consciousness that could be erased was too little. Therefore, the decomposition function became a useless function that was tasteless but a pity to discard. In addition, Lin Shen's current attribute points were too high. His top-tier and saint-tier attributes were extremely valuable. The attribute points obtained from decomposing ordinary treasures were pitifully low, and it would even reduce his most precious Heaven's Path points. It was almost not worth it. As time passed, Lin Shen couldn't be bothered to activate the decomposition function anymore. It would be a waste to activate it, so he might as well keep the Heaven's Path points to awaken his own strength. However, the divine dragon scale he saw today was different. This dragon scale had lost its divinity, which meant that it didn't even have a wisp of the divine dragon's consciousness left. It completely met the system's decomposition requirements. Most importantly, while it could be decomposed, its level was high enough. That was the most important thing. Lin Shen moved to the edge of the dragon scale in a flash. He reached out with his trembling hand, and when he touched the small continental plate, he communicated with the system with a thought. System, activate decomposition function. System is analyzing target. Can you decompose? Lin Shun felt uneasy, and his heart seemed to jump to his throat. Consumed 98 top-tier Heaven's Path points to activate decomposition function. Target decomposed successfully. Whoosh! Boom! 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 The entire continental plate instantly split into countless stars and condensed into Lin Chen's palm. This scene left the 9 well-informed descendants of the divine dragons dumbfounded on the spot. Even Princess Xingyue stared at Lin Chun as if she had seen a ghost. That was the scale of a divine dragon. Even if it had lost its divinity and perished for countless years, it would be very difficult to shatter it without the strength of a dragon king. If the 9 of them were to join forces, they would have to fight for at least 10 days and 10 nights before they could even crack this dragon scale, let alone dissolve instantly. Target decomposition successful. Host has received 20 million sacred essences, 10 million sacred HP, 150 sacred earth energy, 132 sacred wood energy, 1400 sacred rune energy, 122 top talent points, 80 million sacred essences. Lin Chen almost jumped up in excitement. F*CK, I've said it. These attribute points were 2 F*King rich. Although the sacred HP didn't soar much since the divine dragon had perished for so many years, the elemental attribute points and sacred essence were too high. Luo Shiyue's beautiful eyes trembled as she stared at the young man's side profile. He's smiling. This smile is exactly the same as before. Luo Shiyue's heart palpitated. Lin Chen's smile was exactly the same as back in the battlefield of the 9 races. This man was going to do it again. Very right, 2 F*King right. It was the right choice not to use up all my top-tier Heaven's Path points at once. The Heaven's Path points I received before have increased again. Now, I have 570,000 top-tier Heaven's Path points. It's enough for me to do something big. Lin Chen's lips curled up crazily. His mouth was almost crooked from laughing. Today, this handsome guy is going to empty out this Shunlong ruins. Buzz. In the divine dragon ruin, a pair of eyes opened in the vast and distant depths. It was as if the sun and moon were rotating as it stared into the distance. There's the scent of the ancient Taishi dragon. It's very vague, but it really exists, and it's coming this way. The dragon race's fire of providence could conceal the aura of the divine dragon's descendants. If the dragon race's fire of providence disappeared, it would alarm the strongest remaining insect race. And the owner of this had actually sensed the ancient Taishi dragon's aura through the dragon race's fire of providence. The light in the eyes suddenly shone brightly. How many eras has it been? I can finally meet the ancient Taishi dragon again. Back then, I was defeated and severely injured by that fellow, which gave the dragon race the opportunity to invade. I'll use her descendants to pay for my sins this time. Bam! 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 A sharp roar shook the nebula until it was torn apart. Countless stardust and meteorites exploded, and a terrifying energy wave swept up billions of feet high and swept through everything. Just the wrath of a will was already so terrifying. On the other side, Lin Shun was possessed by the divine dragon and even transformed into the ancient Taishi dragon's original form. He was moving at the fastest speed in the divine dragon race's relic. This bold action stunned the 9 divine dragons' descendants. This action of actively revealing his true form and location was like saying to the insect race hiding in the dark, "Come and attack me. I have the bloodline of the ancient dragon. Crazy. He must be crazy. Lin Shun, are you crazy? Quickly put away the ancient Taishi dragon's body. The dragon race's fire of providence has finally concealed our aura. Aren't you courting death by doing this? Do you want to cause us to fall into the insect tide? You're really ambitious." The divine dragon's descendants gritted their teeth and were so angry that they almost attacked Lin Shun. Lin Shun, on the other hand, was having a good time. During this half a day, he had already dissected 18 divine dragon scales and feathers. The harvest was so bountiful that it was comparable to Lin Chun killing a group of 4th and 5th Revolution sages. Haha, awesome, too awesome. Lin Chun couldn't help but laugh. This was a pleasant surprise that he had not expected. With this accumulation, his cultivation would improve even further when he condensed his acupoints. Rumble. Waves of purplish-gray waves suddenly surged out from all around Lin Chun and the others, like giant waves that could overturn the heavens. Because the vast, illusory nebula had cut off most of the Divine Dragon's senses, the Divine Dragon's descendants were already surrounded when they sensed it. Within the purplish-gray waves, there were 2 types of insect race members. One type was 70 feet long and had a dark purple body. It flapped its wings and created a sound wave. Its tail had a spike, and its teeth were as sharp as knives. The other type had 2 limbs as sharp as knives. It was 50 feet long and 30 feet tall. Its tail was like a cicada's wings, and it had the body of a mantis. Its black eyes were filled with ferocious hostility as it locked onto Lin Chun and the others. Lin Chun, who had transformed into the ancient Taishi dragon, narrowed his eyes. He finally saw the true appearance of the insect race at close range. This race that only existed in history had even threatened the foundation of the dragon race at its peak. Chapter 1673. Luo Shueiyue said in a low voice, "It's the heart-devouring purple wasp and the silent sickle mantis." Another descendant of the divine dragon prepared for battle and said in a low voice, "These insects were born in the place where the war between the 2 races ended. Under the premise of moving together, they can withstand the pressure of the divine dragon's remains and survive." The descendants of the divine dragon present were all people who had seen big scenes and were not frightened by this insect tide. Lin Chen's dragon eyes turned and scanned the starry sky. These are the insects. What a mysterious life form. In terms of individual energy waves, they can't even compare to the lowest level sacred beast, but each of them has a special offensive ability. If it's a sneak attack, even sages can be killed by them. Lin Chun had heard before that insects were divided into many realms. Larva metamorphosis, adult insect inhalation, insect metamorphosis, demon transformation, peak demon insect, insect queen, insect king, and insect god. This was a group of insects that had already become demons. Although they did not have the overall strength of a sacred beast, they had the destructive power of a sacred beast. Once one was affected by them, one's flesh and bones would evaporate from the world. Even spiritual remnants would not be left behind. This was equivalent to a group of insects that had the destructive power of a sacred beast, but did not have the defensive power of a sacred beast. But the most troublesome thing was their numbers. Just the number of them that could be seen from the front row had already exceeded millions, and could be counted in the tens of millions. This was equivalent to 10 million creatures with the offensive power of a sacred beast attacking at the same time. That kind of power was enough to destroy 1,000 planes. This was the terror of the insect race. They were born with the advantage of numbers. Not to mention that there was a group of peak demon insects that had the combat power of a sacred beast or even a heaven-opening realm. And if they continued to kill like this, who knew how long they would have to kill? Would they provoke even bigger fellows? When Lin Chun looked carefully with the power of his primordial spirit, his eyes suddenly lit up. No, these insects have attribute light balls on them. Every insect had an attribute light ball, but it was very dim. In addition, they were far away, so Lin Chun could not see the whole picture. There are too many of them. Let's retreat first. A beautiful female descendant of a goddess exclaimed. Suddenly, a cold-looking green-eyed god's descendant reacted almost at the same time as Lin Chun, abruptly raising his head to look at the space above. Above the starry sky, there was actually a dim glimmer of moonlight. Dense strands of moonlight covered the starry sky, faintly forming the outline of a half-moon hanging in the sky. Lin Chun narrowed his eyes. That thing is... The green-eyed divine descendant's expression was grave as he said coldly, "There's actually another lunar wolf spider. A gigantic black tarantula was crouching on top of the huge moonlight net. The tail of the tarantula was enshrouded by the bright moonlight. Its body was thousands of acres in size. This is an insect emperor realm heavenly moon wolf spider. It is comparable to a human rank 7 peak stage sage. Oh no, it's not something that can be done in a short period of time. Its wolf spider moon web is extremely difficult to break. We've been surrounded, as the demis exclaimed. Lin Shun turned back to human form from his dragon form and smiled coldly. Don't worry, I have no intention of running away. He looked at the 9 demis. I'll leave the big guy above to you. Leave the insect tied to me. Rumble. Lin Chen did not give them any time to react and instantly charged towards the insect tied. You want to fight the insect tied alone? He's crazy. There's no time to care about him. Let's kill the lunar wolf spider and tear open an opening to charge out. The divine dragon descendants swarmed forward and transformed into their half-dragon forms, instantly surrounding the lunar wolf spider. The lunar wolf spider's web was extremely tough and could not be broken by ordinary attacks. They had to focus on one point to tear it apart. Only Luo Shueiyue and Princess Xingyu hesitated. The former chose to follow Lin Shun, while the latter chose to monitor Lin Shun. They chased after Lin Shun from behind. Princess Xingyu rushed to Lin Shen's side and coldly scolded. Lin Shun, what are you planning? Don't forget that half of your life is still in my hands. Lin Shen suddenly smiled and said, Do you know what he used to do? Princess Xingyu was stunned and subconsciously asked, What did you do? Lin Shen smiled, but did not say anything. With a snap of his fingers, 7 phantom divine lights descended from the sky. Princess Xingyu and Luo Shueiyue were shocked at the same time. There were actually 7 Lin Chens. The clones have stopped refining medicine in advance. Now is the time to use them. All 7 of Lin Chen's clones appeared. With a wave of his palm, Lin Chen handed all the strengthened plus 17 sacred artifacts to his clones. I used to run a club, the Black Horse Club, that specializes in dealing with all disobedience. Fighting group battles, the Black Horse Club's favorite. Blast them to smithereens. Clang. Rumble. The sword transformed into a dragon's roar, and the saber's roar shook the starry sky. All the clones were covered in 5-colored light, dazzling and resplendent. Almost at the same time, the clones brandished their sabers and swords. Extreme taboo heaven opening, lightning speed sword, transforming rain and flowing cloud. God's tears, burning sky arrow, myriad thunder 1,000 caddies. Lotus dance, 8 divisions burning dragon heavenly roar. 9 layers burning sky palm. Rolling thunder shook the world, and the saber's aura was like tears floating in the starry sky. Lotus flowers bloomed in the chaotic starry river, and the burning dragon heavenly roar shattered the sky. Lin Shen's many orange-grade ultimate techniques exploded one after another. They crushed the insect tide in different directions. The attack was so terrifying that even the proud Princess Xingyu's pupils couldn't help but shrink. He was still holding back. If he had used this in the previous election meeting, the 20 divine dragon descendants wouldn't have been able to last for so long. Bang, bang, bang. All of Lin Chen's ultimate techniques split into 5 and crushed the front row of insect tide, causing the sky to turn dark. God's Tears Saber Energy was a group attack divine technique. It used the user's mental strength, pure strength, and holy power cultivation as the foundation to create saber energy fragments. The stronger the 3 domains, the more powerful the saber energy. Lin Chen was extremely outstanding in all 3 domains. In Lin Chen's hands, this battle technique was already the number 1 battle technique below Orange Tier High Level. In terms of group attack effect, even Orange Tier High Level Extreme, Taboo Heaven Opening, and Waves Rain and Clouds could not compare. Host has triggered Destructive Explosion Innate Talent 1,992 times, 1,999 times. Lin Chen's attack was successful. His innate talent screen flickered crazily, directly triggering his second wave of explosions. It continued to affect the insects behind the insect tide. Lin Chen's clone's holy power cultivation was already comparable to a single saint talent list and divine dragon descendant. Adding on the amplification of flickering light, clones, and ambilight, this wave of attacks was equivalent to more than 20 rank 7 peak stage sages unleashing their strongest attacks together. That speed of destruction caused the pupils of the divine descendants who were fighting against the heavenly moonwolf spiders to shrink. This kind of firepower was too abnormal. This Lin Chun actually had so many trump cards up his sleeves. No wonder the Dragon Clan's higher-ups invited him to enter the Divine Dragon Ruins to protect the divine descendants. From the looks of it, he indeed had the strength to do so, not to mention 20 divine dragon descendants. Even if this number was doubled, they might not be able to take down Lin Chun. Luo Shueiyue and Princess Xingyu's reactions were extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, they immediately joined the fight against the insect tide and destroyed a large number of insects in one go. In an instant, the insect tide crazily appeared and was crazily destroyed, and Lin Chun flashed over. When he arrived near where the insect tide was destroyed, he finally saw the attribute light balls they dropped. Every insect only dropped one attribute light ball. The pure white attribute light balls were scattered all over the starry sky. When Lin Chun transformed into the ancient Tai Shi dragon and stored away, the system screen popped up. Host has received 6,000 high-grade Heaven's Path points, 5,000 high-grade Heaven's Path points. Lin Chun was stunned for a moment before his eyes shone. These insects actually specifically dropped Heaven's Path points. Good heavens, there's a way. Chapter 1674. It required 100 million high-grade Heaven's Path points to be converted into top-grade Heaven's Path points. Lin Chun dissected the Divine Dragon scale and Divine Dragon's feather for around 100 top-grade Heaven's Path points, which was 10 billion high-grade Heaven's Path points. Killing a Zerg that had turned into a demon would give him around 5,000 to 30,000 high-grade Heaven's Path points. In other words, killing the Zergs plus dissecting the Divine Dragon scale equals road to riches plus wealth password. It was a done deal. Haha, I like these Zergs. Look at them, they're so cute. Don't let them run away, beat them up. Lin Chun transformed into the ancient Tai Shi dragon and soared under the starry sky, collecting attribute light balls and crushing the Zerg along the way. Seeing this, the descendants of gods' mouths twitched. Cute your head. Crazy, he must be crazy. This Lin Chun was a demon. The descendants of divine dragons could not wait to run away when they saw the Zergs, but he still chased after them. Who knew how many groups would be alerted if he attacked one group? This Lin Chun was getting addicted. Seeing that the situation was not good, the lunar wolf spider screamed and crawled on its web to escape. Chi! Rip! A sky-burning arrow burned its web, which was equivalent to breaking its leg. The lunar wolf spider was so shocked that it bared its teeth. Lin Chen's two doppelgangers each attacked with a blade and a sword, activating the destruction and explosion talents and turning it into precious top-grade Heaven's Path points. The descendants of divine dragons were dumbfounded. Instant kill. Boom. Terrifying sound waves swept across the sky, and new Zergs attacked. It was a new Zerg wave. Not good. Princess Xingyue, it's time to retreat. If this continues, we'll be surrounded and killed. Bang! Before the descendants of gods could finish speaking, countless Zergs were turned into ashes and scattered under the starry sky. Lin Chun used the heavenly claw and split it into 5. Then the ancient dragon swung its tail, and 5 extreme heavenly prisons appeared out of thin air from the Zerg wave. Boom! The extreme heavenly prisons twisted, and the heavenly claw swept across the 1,000 realms whirling, killing a large number of Zergs. Good timing. Give me more. That's right, I feel it. Lin Chun laughed madly all the way. The speed at which he collected attribute light balls became faster and faster. He actually counterattacked the insect tide, suppressing the insect tide that covered the stars and moon for a time. In less than 2 hours, all of the insect tide that came to besiege Lin were all blasted into dregs by him. In the void, only the divine dragon descendants were left in disarray under the starry sky. They were dumbfounded. Just how crazy was this guy? He was not afraid of the insectoids at all, and had even torn a path out of the insectoid horde alive. Luo Shueiyue saw their gazes and suddenly smiled. Her smile was like a flower. Now, do you still doubt his strength? The higher-ups have said that he has the strength to protect us. All the descendants of the divine dragons had no choice but to submit. Throughout the entire dragon clan, only the descendants of the ancient dragons from the previous era could suppress him. In the current era of the dragon race, there might not be a single dragon that could compare to Lin Shun. What are you dilly-dallying for? If you stop again, I won't wait for you. Lin Shun did not say anything and continued to rush in the direction of the huge attribute light ball pillar. Princess Xingyue and the rest could only continue to follow Lin Shun. It had to be said that staying by Lin Shen's side was the safest. His combat strength could sweep through all directions. However, the idea of staying by Lin Shen's side was the safest was dispelled by all the divine descendants in less than half a day. F***CK. I see 17 waves of insect tides in front. Oh my god, this feels so good. Below that nebula is the nest of the pinnacle insect demon, the dream demon butterfly. Kill him, kill him. There are insect queens. The great demonic moon mantis actually has a team of insect queens. Go, 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 don't waste time. If you waste any more time, they'll run away. F***CK, 20 insect queens, ha! We've struck it rich. So high, I feel like I've reached the peak of my life. The divine dragon descendants. Staying by Lin Shen's side was the safest? T. This was more like the most King dangerous. This person was like ghost shit. He was simply a lunatic. When people saw the insect race, they would take a detour, secretly run, and quickly escape. He was specifically looking for the insect race. When he saw more insect race, he would directly rush over and kill them without a second thought. He even rushed into the nest of the insect queens. Every insect queen had the combat strength of a 5th transformation sage, at the very least. The insect race loved the dragon race's bloodline the most. When they saw the divine dragon descendants' flesh and blood, they were like moths to a flame, rushing over without any regard for their lives. If the insect queens fought in groups, even the divine dragon descendants would feel their scalps go numb. Staying by Lin Shen's side was simply like encountering all the insect races in the divine dragon ruin. Every time they played, their hearts would beat faster. However, they could not leave Lin Shen's side. The direction this fellow was heading in was actually the same as the spatial coordinates they were heading to. They even suspected that this was not Lin Shen's first time at the divine dragon ruin. In less than 7 days, Lin Shen's team had gone through 28 battles of various sizes. The number of insect races they had exterminated was no longer in the hundreds of millions, but in the tens of billions. Along the way, Lin Shun had even obtained close to 100 divine dragon scales and feathers. The more they came into contact with Lin Shun, the more the divine dragon descendants felt that he was unfathomable. His clones were enough to pass off as real. Moreover, the clones seemed to always have an endless amount of saint power and energy. When they fought, they would never need to rest. They were pure killing machines. Moreover, after the clones died, Lin Shun could almost effortlessly recreate them. Even the divine dragon, known as the Thousand-Faced Dragon, who specialized in clones, could not do such a thing. On the 8th day, Lin Shun and the others arrived at a vast astrolabe continent. Lin Shun was excited. The attribute light balls are inside. Lin Shun realized that the most dazzling attribute light pillars came from this astrolabe continent. Moreover, this continent was also a divine dragon's reverse scale. The insect race had occupied it and turned it into a nest. Princess Xingyue's eyebrows twitched. She actually sensed the insect king's aura inside. Seeing that Lin Chen wanted to move, she even pulled Lin Chen back and said in shock, "Can't you sense the aura inside? It's very likely that there's an insect king inside. That's a powerful creature comparable to the dragon king of the dragon race." Lin Chen smiled casually. "Why are you so cowardly? There's an injured insect king inside. It was injured by the godly might of your dragon race's divine dragon. Right now, it's half dead and has fallen into a deep sleep." There was a murderous glint in his handsome eyes. "It's just a dying insect king. It's nothing. Kill it. If you don't kill it, when it wakes up, it'll kill us sooner or later." Lin Chen, wanted treasures with attribute-light pillars. He also wanted the insect king's life and attributes, the divine dragon descendants. This lunatic was getting more and more ridiculous. The insect king was equivalent to the dragon king of the dragon race. Even a dying insect king was not to be trifled with. When it was about to die, even a half-step holy king would have to stop it. Lin Chen still wanted to kill it. Lin Chen's recent combat strength was indeed very strong, but it was only limited to those below the half-step holy king level. He could not even compare to a half-step holy king. Compared to a real holy king, he was still worlds apart. Coveting the insect king was not just arrogance, it was courting death. Luo Shueiyue suddenly said, "Do you need us to do anything?" The divine dragon descendants were even more shocked. What was going on? Was Luo Shueiyue crazy too? Chapter 1675. Lin Chen smiled playfully. "Miss Luo Shueiyue is also interested? I can see that you are very aware." Lin Chen gestured. "Let's do this first, then do this, then do that. Understand?" Luo Shueiyue nodded. I understand." Wait. What the hell is this?" "Shueiyue, you understand just this? Listen to my thunder later," Lin Chen said. Then, his clone waved his hand and activated the Shadow Vanish secret technique that Heaven Annihilation had imparted to Lin Chen. It eliminated all auras and disappeared into the void. "This, Princess Xingyue, should we take a detour? The Ancestors' Dragon Graveyard is behind this nebula. Should we stay behind, or—" When the other mystical dragon descendants saw that Lin Chen was moving alone again, they looked at Princess Xingyue. Facing the Insect King, even if the mystical dragon descendants could not defeat it, it was not a big problem to run away. However, they would have to use their life-saving trump card. They had just entered the mystical dragon ruins for a few days, yet they had to use their life-saving trump card. This was undoubtedly a prelude to giving up everything for free. Once they lost their life-saving trump card, they could only forcefully teleport away if they encountered a few more dangerous situations. At that time, everything they obtained would be left in the mystical dragon ruins. Princess Xingyue thought about it again and again, then sighed, "Forget it. Although this stinking hooligan is annoying, every action he takes is unexpected. He has never suffered a loss. Maybe he has a lot of confidence this time. It will take twice as long to take a detour. Let's follow him again. Perhaps he really has a trump card. If we can directly pass through this star field, we will save a lot of time." Princess Xingyue looked at Luo Shueiyue and said seriously, "Sister Shueiyue, can you tell me about that damn hooligan's plan?" Luo Shueiyue smiled sweetly. "No problem. He has already arranged your team's location." The mystical dragon descendants face-bombed. Good heavens. It seemed that Lin Chen had already predicted that they would follow him. Luo Shueiyue said, "This continent belongs to our mystical dragon ancestors. Lin Chen will take away later. We'll attack together. He'll be in charge of the insect king inside, and we'll be in charge of the insect queen and demonic insects outside." The descendants of the divine dragons looked at each other. A beautiful woman of the divine dragons asked in surprise, "That's it?" Luo Shueiyue nodded. "That's it. So simple. This. Was he really that confident?" Princess Xingyue's beautiful eyes were filled with astonishment. He wanted to challenge the insect king alone? Staying by Lin Chen's side for the past few days, Her understanding had been impacted time and time again. Luo Shuiyue's body flashed into the astral plate continent in a flash. The descendants of the mystical dragons could only follow. Inside the astrolabe continent, deep underground in a vast cave, there was a dark green shell that looked like a long river. Beneath the dark green carapace were many green legs, each of which was several hundred meters tall. His face had ferocious fangs. His sharp fangs were like iron ridges, like a crescent moon blade, vigorous and powerful. At its tail, there was crystallized energy that covered its entire body. This was a true colossus. It traversed the entire astral plate continent. Insect King, 10,000-legged centipede queen. The 10,000-legged centipede queen was a member of the insect race that obtained a small portion of the insect god's inheritance from the divine dragon ruins. Back then, the divine dragons attacked. Not only did they destroy most of the insect race's foundation, but they also used the dead bodies of the divine dragons to seal the insect race here for eternity. After the 10,000-legged centipede queen became a king, it was unwilling to stop here. It wanted to leave this place. For this reason, it wanted to enter the divine dragon ruins and steal the remaining blood essence of the divine dragons. In the end, the 10,000-legged centipede queen was defeated by the combined forces of the divine dragons and was severely injured. When it tried its best to escape, it was already on the verge of death. When it left, only 1/3 of its body was left. However, it did not come out empty-handed. The 10,000-legged centipede queen successfully bit off a piece of the yin-yang creation divine dragon's blood essence and escaped into the ruins. The 10,000-legged centipede queen had only recovered half of its body. Otherwise, its body would be even bigger. The yin-yang creation divine dragon's blood essence was too powerful, so it did not have the chance to refine it. It could only seal it and wait for it to recover to its peak state. Outside the cave, a handsome face wearing a pair of black glasses quietly peeked out. Wow, this is the Insect King. It's really big. Lin Chen sighed. He had heard of the history of the insect race. If not for the dragon world's desperate resistance, the insect race would have headed straight for the human race's sacred boundary after destroying the dragon race's base camp. In a way, the dragon race had helped the human race eliminate a mortal enemy. In the insect race's hostile relationship, the dragon race was the most important, followed by the human race. If the dragon race was destroyed, the human race would definitely be targeted. I wonder how many attribute light balls I'll get if I kill this big guy. Lin Chen's primordial spirit power gathered at the front of the cave. He sensed a hexagonal blood-colored crystal jade that was filled with pure yin-yang energy. That blood-colored crystal jade was the spot where the most intense attribute light was emitted. The 10,000-legged centipede queen was in the deepest state of unconsciousness. It was surrounded by the insect swarm. Logically speaking, it had set up many spies. The slightest movement would wake it up. Even an insect king of the same level would find it difficult to hide from its spies. However, Lin Shun had learned the Destruction Gemini's assassination technique. Even at its peak, the 10,000-legged centipede queen might not be able to discover Lin Shun, much less now. I need to obtain that blood-colored crystal jade and kill this big guy. There's only one chance. Lin Shun looked at the other side of the continent. Standing at the 10,000-legged centipede queen's head was Lin Chen's avatar. His main body and sacred dragon escape were at the tail. The southern part of the astral continent was the 10,000-legged centipede queen's tail region. It was a place that was filled with venomous moths, demonic wasps, and demonic butterflies. They were building nests here. Massive amounts of insect race creatures were at the tail region of the 10,000-legged centipede queen. They were all absorbed by the 10,000-legged centipede queen. Its broken body was gradually recovering with the help of the insect race's mucus. At the same time, the aura released by its body was nourished by the insect race creatures. They supported each other and formed a symbiotic state. Lin Shun and Sacred Dragon escaped from the insect race. They stared at the insect king's body that was recovering and smiled playfully. I haven't used any means other than my ultimate heaven-defying talent to kill a Sage King. Today, I'll start with you. With a thought, Lin Chen's avatar connected to the system. The avatar at the head placed its palm inside the cave. System disintegrate. Most of the rocks and nests in the astral continent were built by the insect race using meteorites. Only the core layer was made of dragon scales. Consumed 101 top-level heavenly Tao points. Target disintegrated successfully. Host receives whoosh. Almost half of the astral continent disappeared in an instant. The 10,000-legged centipede queen's body and massive insect race creatures floated under the starry sky. The centipede queen's head suddenly shone with a dark green light. It instantly woke up. The moment it opened its eyes, it was shocked to discover. How did its home disappear while it was sleeping? Had its nest been destroyed? Kaboom! The next moment, the centipede queen would never have dreamed that 7 humans would suddenly appear in front of it. Attack! Lin Chen's 7 avatars went all out. They used all their ultimate techniques to attack the centipede queen head-on. The 10,000-legged centipede queen. When I opened my eyes, he hit me 10,000 times. Chapter 1676. The 10,000-legged centipede king was stunned for 1,000th of a second. Humans? A group of humans appeared in the divine dragon relic? What kind of weirdo was this? How could they be so wild? The centipede king's fangs subconsciously bit onto the yin-yang divine dragon blood crystal. As it protected it, it suddenly let out a sharp cry. Boom! Bang! 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 The nearby stars were all crushed and exploded by a sharp sound wave. All the attacks from the 7 illusionary clones were shattered. Even if the illusionary clones activated their golden jade clothes to defend, they were instantly torn apart. The sound wave penetrated their bodies, and all the clones were severely injured and on the verge of death. The 7 clones suddenly launched a sneak attack, and even a 9th revolution saint would fall for it. But to the 10,000-legged centipede king, not only could it not break through its defense, but all the attacks were also destroyed in an instant. There was no comparison. The 2 sides were not on the same level at all. This was the combat power of a Sage King. Even if it was on the verge of death and severely injured, it was definitely not something that Lin Chen's clones could shake. Consumed 40,000 Sage-level rune energy. The host activated the level 8 slow rune and the level 8 illusion rune to make up for the illusionary clones. The clones seemed to have expected this, and they threw out a slow rune with one hand. When the slow rune exploded, it bought the clones 1,000th of a second. The rune energy immediately healed the clones' injuries. The 10,000-legged centipede king spat out a green beam of light, which tore through the slow rune and let out a sharp cry. Humans, although I don't know how you managed to sneak in, you are courting death in front of me. Its head shook, and countless poisonous green blades surged out. Each of them had a strong poisonous gas that could corrode a 9th revolution saint's defense. All the clones activated their colorful lights and stepped on clouds to circle around the sky. They dodged and used their strongest attacks again. Whoosh! A 9-colored starlight split into 5 auroras and pierced through the night sky. Facing the insect king-level insect race, Lin Chen's clones used their strongest attack at this stage. The 9 tribulations star exploded in the space of the 10,000-legged centipede king's head. On the other side now, Luo Shueiyue, who was standing on both sides of the centipede king's body, let out a delicate cry and transformed into her dragon form. She then charged toward the centipede king's nest. Princess Xingyu transformed into the imperial golden dragon. With a swipe of her golden dragon claw, she annihilated countless insects. However, there was still a trace of hesitation and doubt in her dragon eyes. If Lin Chen fought like this, what were his chances of winning? Boom! Just as Princess Xingyu was puzzled, a beam of golden light soared into the sky. The invincible divine might of the war god swept across the starry sky. The deities glanced sideways, feeling lingering fear. This divine might did not belong to the dragon race. At the tail region of the Centipede Queen, an ancient dragon shining with golden light appeared out of nowhere. Red clouds wrapped around the dragon's body, and the golden Taishi divine light covered its body. The ancient dragon charged into the insect swarm with an absolute defense, crushing countless insects along the way. However, what was even more powerful was the golden armored figure on top of the ancient dragon head. The golden armored figure rode on the dragon. Its left and right shoulder armor were like claws, and the outline of the armor was streamlined. When it spread its wings, it shone with boundless golden light, as if it was wearing an unparalleled divine armor. It was invincible. Its entire body's strength surged, and the war god's golden light was released along the way, crushing countless low-level insects. Princess Xing Yu's dragon eyes narrowed. It's Lin Chun. If she had not seen it with her own eyes, Princess Xing Yu would have found it hard to believe that a human could surpass so many levels of strength. When most of the insect swarm's attention was attracted by the left and right sides, Lin Chen's sudden attack with the five-piece war god set completely caught them off guard. Even so, the number of insect queens at the tail region was still terrifying. Lin Chun used the Taishi divine light to destroy everything along the way. Regardless of whether the insect race used poison or numbers, they could not break through Lin Chen's Taishi divine light. His absolute defense was almost flawless for those below the Sage King level. The Saint Dragon crashed through the insect swarm and approached the broken tail. Lin Chen's pure strength had broken through the limit of 990,000 supremes and reached the peak of the half-step Sage King level. Just as he approached the tail and was about to punch the 10,000-legged Centipede King, buzz! Kaboom! Thousands of corrosive green auroras shot out from the broken centipede's tail. At this moment, the descendants of the divine dragon felt their hair stand on end. If they were in the green auroras, they would definitely die. The broken tail was its weakest point. How could the 10,000-legged Centipede King not have a backup plan? Even the powerful Taishi divine light was severely corroded by the green auroras and quickly became broken. Just as it was about to break, kaboom! Lin Chun activated his pure strength and rushed out of the Saint Dragon's head. The Saint Dragon retreated with the Taishi divine light while he rushed straight for the 10,000-legged Centipede King's tail. System, golden body of the god of war. The stream-like golden light filled Lin Chen's entire body. The golden body of the god of war had more than double the defense of pure strength. Lin Chun resisted the 10,000-legged Centipede King's corrosive green auroras and rushed to the broken tail area in an instant. He then kicked at it. His fist could shatter heaven and earth, and his leg could shatter the galaxy. Lin Chen's brain was heating up. He could not care less about how much strength he had. His fist and leg shook the heavens and earth. Bam! 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 Lin Chun unleashed a torrential barrage of attacks on the 10,000-legged Centipede King's tail, causing heaven and earth to tremble. Green centipede blood splattered everywhere. The 10,000-legged Centipede King let out a shrill cry, and the sound waves stirred up a spatial storm in the galaxy. Host has activated destructive creation, destructive explosion, super chaotic innate skills. Lin Chun activated a series of innate skills crazily. He did not care whether it was 990,000 supremacy power or 950,000 supremacy power. Lin Chun only had one thought in his mind, and that was to use all his strength as quickly as possible. All the descendants of the divine dragon were stunned. They even forgot to attack the Zerg in front of them. They stared blankly at Lin Chun, who was attacking crazily. His fist could shatter heaven and earth. His leg could shatter the galaxy. Every move was filled with pure destructive power. The airflow was distorted, and space collapsed. It was as if light was about to be shattered by the power of the god of war. Countless celestial bodies along the way were quickly destroyed. At that moment, the descendants of the divine dragon who thought highly of themselves, felt fear and respect for the human race for the first time. Bam! Rumble! The 10,000-legged centipede king, which was as big as a continent, was sent flying by Lin Chun. Chirp! Human race! Damned human race! The 10,000-legged centipede king's entire body was sent flying. Its flesh was torn apart, its shell was crumbling, and its body was exploding continuously. Attribute light balls were flying everywhere. Lin Chun advanced triumphantly. His attacks were like a golden dragon, smashing through the insect king's tail like breaking rotten wood. He went straight for the insect king's head. The 10,000-legged centipede king did not have the chance to defend or react. It was sent flying by Lin Chun and exploded continuously. It did not even have time to adjust its battle stance. After the 10,000-legged centipede king endured the power of Lin Chun's thousands of punches, finally, bam, an explosion shook the galaxy. The front half of the 10,000-legged centipede king's body exploded into pieces. It turned into a sky full of stars. The descendants of the divine dragon were shocked. He actually succeeded. Lin Chun, the heaven-defying Zerg king. Chapter 1677. Lin Chun had killed the 10,000-legged centipede king by himself. This was a super creature that was equivalent to a sage king. Elemental light balls filled the sky as the grand, ancient dragon danced under the starry sky. Its dragon aura was pure and vast, causing the divine dragon descendants to be rooted to the spot. Princess Xing Yu was stunned for a moment. The young man was wearing a golden armor, and his aura was dazzling. The fragments of the insect king were like stars in the sky, and they shone brightly under the starry sky, complementing the golden light. The Taishi ancient dragon under his feet seemed to have a mind of its own. It roared into the sky, and its roar shook the universe, as if announcing the arrival of a new overlord. An ancient dragon and a god of war, what a perfect match. It was as if this man and dragon were made by nature. Luo Shueiyue stared at his side profile and smiled, and her eyes shone even brighter. If Lin Chun only had 990,000 supremacy power, it would be extremely difficult to kill the 10,000-legged centipede king. Even if it was a diversionary tactic, the probability of a sneak attack was less than 10%. Killing a Saint King Realm Master was simply too difficult. Even if it was heavily injured and on the verge of death. An injured lion was still a lion, and it was not comparable to a strong rabbit. The difference between 990,000 supremacy power and 1 million supremacy power was a huge gap between a peak half-step Sage King and a Sage King. From the start, Lin Chun had targeted its old injury and attacked it furiously. Furthermore, other than pure strength, Lin Chun had two other methods to restrain it. They were Extinction Split Wound and Destructive Explosion. Extinction Split Wound. If the host injured the enemy, the wound would expand as time passed, and it would not be able to heal within a short period of time. Destructive Explosion. All of the host's hostile attacks had a 10% chance of penetrating the enemy's defense and causing the enemy to explode. These two orange-level talents were simply taking advantage of your weakness. Once activated, it was like a snowball rolling down a mountain, destroying everything in its path. Under Lin Chun's fierce attacks, the old injuries were stacked on top of each other. The most ruthless thing was that it could not recover completely. Even the will of the dragon god could not take it down, but it was crushed to death by Lin Chun. Host has received 20 million Saint Tier Essence, 29 million Saint Tier Health Points, 40,000 Top Talent Points, 1,200 Top Heavens Path Points. The host has opened the Equipment Attribute Treasure Chest. Obtained 1 Sacred Weapon Upgrade Voucher. Using this coupon can increase the grade and quality of sacred artifacts, but it's limited to sacred artifacts. The host has opened the Equipment Attribute Treasure Chest. Obtained Sacred Weapon Upgrade Voucher X1. The host has opened the Equipment Attribute Treasure Chest. Obtained Sacred Weapon Upgrade Voucher X1. The 10,000 feet centipede queen's doppelganger madly swept through elemental light balls. The quality of each of the 10,000 feet centipede queen's elemental light balls was extremely high, not at all inferior to a sage ruler's. Most importantly, when Lin Shun had used the ultimate heaven-defying talent to instantly kill Een, son of heaven and the four sacred kings, he had been in the state of a god-slayer. While the god-slayer talent was active, it would not drop any growth-type attribute points. And now, the 10,000 feet centipede queen that Lin Shun had killed had dropped the attribute light ball of a sacred king's death. The attribute light ball this time would lay a huge foundation for Lin Chen's accumulation when he condensed his acupoints. The host has received a random orange tier talent treasure chest. After opening it, you can randomly obtain orange tier beginner and intermediate orange tier talents. Small probability of obtaining an advanced orange tier talent. Note, this talent treasure chest can be used for fusion. The more you fuse, the higher the probability of obtaining an advanced orange tier talent. At this moment, Lin Chen's clone had obtained a special attribute treasure chest. Lin Shun thought to himself, "Good fellow, it's actually a special talent treasure chest. But I have to keep it. Ordinary orange tier talents no longer have the same effect on me as before. I need a more advanced orange tier talent." When Lin Shen turned around, he looked around and teased, "Why, haven't you seen such a handsome guy before?" In the distance, Luo Shueiyue, who had transformed into her human form, smiled boldly. "I really haven't." Lin Shun was amazed. "Miss Luo, I've long known that you're not an ordinary person. Now it seems that not only do you have a good eye, but you also have a good eye for talent. I'm impressed." This kind of compliment could be used to compliment oneself. She really didn't expect that this person could be so shameless. Lin Chen laughed. "Don't let the battle stop. Let's kill these Zergs first." After losing the 10,000 feet centipede queen, the Zerg tide became violent and disorganized. Lin Shun and the sacred dragon used their ultimate skills, using slowing runes and bloodline abilities one after another. Furthermore, Lin Shun used the 5 pieces of the God of War set to fight against the enemy. The power of 990,000 Zunqi practitioners swept across the galaxy and annihilated billions of insect tribes. He slaughtered his way into the insect swarm as if there was no one around. In less than a day, the 8 divine dragon descendants were once again in awe of Luo Shuyue's foresight and Lin Chen's freakishness. They actually used less than a day to destroy an Zerg King's nest. One had to know that this battle record was enough to be recorded in the Dragon Clan's history books and confer a new Dragon Clan title. Even if those old monster-level revered dragons were to come personally, they might not be able to do a better job than Lin Shun. Although Lin Shen's personality is not likable, his strength is indeed freakishly strong. This son of God is sincerely convinced. With that killer move and his cloning ultimate technique, he must have held back a few moves during the selection assembly that day. I was still doubting Elder Tong, Shen's decision. Now that I think about it, I was really stupid. Ha ha! With Lin Shen around, we'll be safer than those ancient dragon descendants. Are you sure? What if he runs to another Zerg King's nest later? Are you talking about safety by his side? Sorry, I got carried away. The divine dragon descendant sighed. Lin Shen was so busy collecting the attribute light balls that he almost did not have time to deal with them. When Lin Shen's main body received the Enyang Creation Dragon Blood Marrow Crystal Jade, the attribute light inside was immediately absorbed. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Divine Dragon Bloodline attribute points. Bloodline's special ability, Immortal Creation. This bloodline special ability can reverse the power of creation and create endless vitality. It can regenerate blood and flesh and restore muscles and bones in an instant. Absorption and refinement requirement. First grade Divine Dragon Bloodline. As the host body already contains the Enyang Creation Dragon Bloodline, the host needs to raise the bloodline grade to absorb this bloodline special ability. Lin Shen was pleasantly surprised. This is good stuff. The divine dragon blood marrow crystal jade contains the power of the Yin-Yang creation dragon bloodline. The attribute light balls inside are the Yin-Yang creation dragon bloodline special ability. In this way, Lin Shen would possess another type of divine dragon bloodline. Furthermore, he also had a peerless divine dragon bloodline special ability. The divine dragon's combat strength would definitely increase greatly. At this time, Lin Shen's divine dragon was refining a huge amount of sage-level blood qi. The 10,000 feet centipede queen's blood qi was not low. It could only be stored in Lin Shen's body through the divine dragon possession method. In an instant, Lin Shen put away the four-piece god of war set. His silver robe shone brightly and sparkled with starlight. He was in high spirits, making a few beautiful and enchanting divine descendants cast sidelong glances at him. Princess Xingyue was stunned for a moment and immediately warned herself. This hooligan only has good looks. He used external forces to defeat the Zerg King. This still doesn't change the fact that he has tainted the ancient dragon bloodline. Chapter 1678. After collecting the attribute light balls, Lin Shen laughed heartily. The obstacle has been taken care of. Let's move on. I know the tombstone ruins you want to go to. It's probably around here. Everyone nodded, feeling a little more respect for Lin Shen. If the dragon elders in the outside world saw how obedient their god descendant was, they would probably be taken aback. In the desolate ancient dragon tribe, the descendants of the divine dragons were not convinced of each other. After all, they were existences comparable to the human race's saint talent rankings. Their arrogance was unusual. Their defeat in the selection meeting did not completely convince them. But now, when Lin Shen's trump card could kill the Insect King, they realized that it was difficult for them to catch up to Lin Shen. They actually felt like they were following his lead. To the descendants of the divine dragons, this was like seeing a toad flying in the sky or a sow climbing a tree. Luo Shueiyue exclaimed in her heart. He actually subdued the descendants of the gods without a sound. What a terrifying guy. Immediately after, Luo Shueiyue and Princess Xingyue led the way through this area and arrived at a vast nebula. Lin Shen narrowed his eyes. If we look from before we entered, this is the location of the Dragon Head Nebula. Approaching the Dragon Head Nebula, the divine dragon's aura increased sharply. However, this was not much pressure for the descendants of the divine dragons, but not for the insect race. Without the strength of the Insect King, it was almost impossible to resist the divine dragon's aura. Lin Shen's clone cultivated the Tai heaven concealing technique, so the divine dragon's aura was not a big problem. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. With a series of sonic booms, Lin Shen's clone retreated. It was not that the clone could not withstand the divine dragon's aura, but that Lin Shen was racing against time to decompose more divine dragon scales and feathers. After all, this was an opportunity to enter the divine dragon ruins. It would not be missed. When they entered the Dragon Head Nebula, the 9 descendants of the divine dragons revealed pious and admiring expressions. They stared at the continental plates in the Dragon Head Nebula in admiration. As each continent rotated slowly, it overflowed with a terrifying dragon aura, like the roar of a giant dragon. This was the divine dragon ruins. Back then, when the group of divine dragons died, they left behind the last piece of brilliance for the dragon race. Within the dozens of continents, there was a high possibility that the will of the divine dragon ancestors resided in each of them. The divine dragon was the supreme existence of the dragon clan. Even though they were descendants of the divine dragon, there were very few of them who could truly become a divine dragon. Most of the divine descendants stopped at the Dragon King realm, and it was difficult for them to break through in their entire lives. Therefore, being able to come into contact with the will of the divine dragon ancestors could possibly change their future heights. Shua, shua, shua. The Demis and Lin Shen had just arrived when several other figures entered the Dragonhead Nebula from different directions. It was those arrogant descendants of the ancient dragon. A total of 8 ancient dragon descendants arrived almost at the same time. However, when their gazes landed on Lin Chun and the others, they were filled with astonishment. What was going on? These fellows actually arrived before them? That was the nest of the insect king, the 10,000-legged centipede queen. It was almost impossible to avoid the detection of the insect king's lair and enter this place. What kind of shortcut did they take? Seeing the astonished and confused gazes of the ancient dragon descendants, the divine dragon descendants were all pleased with themselves. There were even 2 divine dragon descendants who pretended to sigh. Aya, it's so annoying. After killing the 10,000-legged centipede queen, we still have to deal with those small insects. It's too tiring. I won't do such tiring work next time. It's better not to do things like killing insects. We have to preserve some strength. Hearing the 2's dry sighs, the ancient dragon descendants' mouths twitched wildly. Did they not need to come up with a script to brag? What a joke. You guys killed the 10,000-legged centipede queen? You're living in a dream. Lin Chun, good fellow, they're saying everything. It's starting to sound like me. Before the ancient dragon descendants could question him, a group of figures appeared far behind Lin Chun's team. It was actually another 15 divine dragon descendants. Ha ha ha, how lucky. I didn't expect the 10,000-legged centipede queen's lair to disappear. They must have been intimidated by the divine dragon aura of our ancestors. The insect tribe is still weak after all. The 8 ancient dragon descendants were completely shocked. They entered from the front again. Could it be that the 10,000-legged centipede queen's lair had really been destroyed? But that was impossible. They more or less knew a little about the combat strength and methods of the 9 divine dragon descendants. If both sides really fought, the 9 divine dragon descendants might not be able to win against the 8 ancient dragon descendants. This team did not have the possibility of sneaking in or destroying the 10,000-legged centipede queen's lair. In the blink of an eye, all the ancient dragon descendants turned towards Lin Chun in unison. When he saw the gazes of the ancient dragon descendants, Lin Chun suddenly pretended to be depressed and sighed into the air. He had the charm of standing at the peak of the world and feeling lonely. The ancient dragon descendants were shocked, and their thoughts were confirmed. Could it be that it was this human? Based on the combat strength he displayed in the main selection meeting, it should not be enough to destroy the insect king's lair. Could it be that he was still holding back? What a good trick of pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. They had misjudged him. This Lin Chun is very troublesome. For these fellows to be able to come, it's most likely related to him. They actually hugged his thigh. Aren't we acting like fools by taking a detour? Human Lin Chun will remember this. The descendant of the ancient dragon felt that he had lost face by taking a detour. Lin Shui silently took the blame again. Many divine dragon descendants entered the many divine dragon tombstones. Every continental plate contained the aura of a divine dragon and was where the tombstones of the divine dragons were located. The 9 divine dragon descendants bade farewell to each other. Everyone work hard. I hope we can obtain the guidance of our ancestors and reach the peak. And Sir Lin Chun, if not for you, we definitely wouldn't have arrived so quickly. I hope you have a fortuitous encounter as well. The divine dragon descendants even bade farewell to Lin Chun. Conquering others with strength was just that daring. The 7 divine dragon descendants flashed and searched for their ancestors' tombs, leaving Princess Xingyu and Luo Shuiwei behind. Lin Chun raised his eyebrows and said with a teasing smile, I say, Princess, you don't even want the inheritance of your ancestors? You still want to stay by my side? Don't tell me you've fallen in love with me? I'll allow you to secretly like me, but you can't fall in love with me. Falling in love is a very bad habit. Enough! Princess Xingyu angrily scolded. Don't flatter yourself. I'm just preventing you from secretly attacking the other divine dragon descendants. Monitoring you is my responsibility and obligation. Lin Chun said with a smile, Don't tell me you still think I'll have any ideas about you. Princess Xingyu snorted coldly. Who knows? You humans know a person's face, but not his heart. The seniors in the clan told me that you humans are the dirtiest. Most of you deceive the world. Lin Chun. Princess Xingyu turned her head. Of course, that might not include you, but I still can't completely trust you. Lin Chun. Lin Chun suddenly said, you don't have good taste. You should learn from Miss Luo Shueiyue. As the saying goes, the bigger the chest, oh no, the bigger the heart, and the bigger the tolerance. Princess Xingyu. Scram. Luo Shueiyue face-bombed. Princess Xingyu had always been known for being calm and collected, but when she met Lin Chun, it was as if she had met her nemesis. Luo Shueiyue led the way to a vast and mysterious land of water. The raging waves rolled for millions of miles and surged endlessly. Lin Chen's divine dragon also had the bloodline of the extreme hell water dragon. If he could obtain the bloodline attribute of the extreme hell water divine dragon, then he would obtain multiple divine dragon bloodlines this time. In the history of the dragon clan, there had never been a single dragon clan member who possessed multiple divine dragon bloodlines. Chapter 1679. Rumble. A raging wave shook the clouds. There was a magnificent palace on the surface of the sea. The palace seemed to be made of dazzling crystal. Lin Chun, Luo Shueiyue, and Princess Xingyu descended. Then, Luo Shueiyue took a step forward. A translucent and gentle water dragon aura rose from her palm and condensed into a dragon talisman. It suddenly exploded, releasing endless light that enveloped the palace. The beauty said, Descendant Luo Shueiyue greets the ancestor. May the ancestor come out of seclusion and bless the dragon race. As soon as she finished speaking, the raging waves on the surface of the sea stopped abruptly. Whoosh! A stream of water rushed into the sky and descended in front of the palace. An elegant and noble woman in a blue palace dress looked straight at Luo Shueiyue and the others. Her hair was light, her brows were picturesque, and her lips were cherry red. Her blue dragon eyes were as blue as jade. She smiled gently. Are you this generation's descendant? Not bad. Before she finished speaking, a look of astonishment appeared on the beautiful woman's face. She stared at Lin Chun and exclaimed, Ancient Taishi dragon? Did that senior find a descendant? But the grade of the bloodline seems to be very unusual. Lin Chun smiled. Senior, you don't have to be surprised. In addition to the ancient Taishi dragon bloodline, I also have the extreme hell water dragon bloodline. After speaking, Lin Chun, who was possessed by the sacred dragon, activated the extreme hell water dragon bloodline. The enhanced plus 17 extreme hell water dragon bloodline was not inferior to a 9th grade Saint tier bloodline. This scene made the beautiful woman's eyes tremble. As a former divine dragon, she knew very well what it meant to have multiple bloodlines. Princess Xingyu suddenly said, Senior water divine dragon, he is a human. If you want to impart the extreme hell water dragon bloodline to him, please think twice. A trace of displeasure appeared between Luo Shiyue's brows for the first time. Lin Chun had helped many divine descendants time and time again. His position was very clear, but Princess Xingyu kept chasing after him. Human? The beautiful woman looked at Lin Chun in surprise. A human had actually appeared in the divine dragon plane, and even she couldn't see through him. Lin Chun didn't intend to hide it either. He smiled generously and said, Yes, that's right. There's no doubt about it. I'm a human. With that, Lin Chun separated the holy dragon from his body. His sacred dragon head carried the dragon race's fire of destiny, but Lin Chun did not. It was clear at a glance. Lin Chun was indeed a human. His root bone and bloodline were incomparably clear. Luo Shueiyue hurriedly said, Ancestor, Lin Chun only entered the divine dragon plane after obtaining the approval of the dragon clan's upper echelons. Furthermore, when we entered, it protected us 9 descendants of the divine dragon many times. It even killed a bug king so that we could reach the divine dragon's graveyard sooner. Upon hearing this, the eyes of the beautiful woman in the palace gown shone even brighter. A young human who possesses the bloodline of the ancient Taishi dragon, the extreme hell water dragon, and the ability to kill the bug king. The beautiful woman's beautiful eyes, which were as bright as the stars in the sky, swirled. After pondering for a moment, she suddenly smiled and said, "Young people of the human race, since ancient times, although the human race and the dragon race have never fought openly, there have been many battles in the dark. If I help you, will you repay me? Otherwise, wouldn't you be creating a powerful opponent for the dragon race in the future?" Rumble. The waves rose tens of thousands of feet high and turned into hundreds of water dragons that attacked Lin Shun with a furious roar. The divine dragon's aura suddenly descended, wanting to suppress Lin Shun. The beautiful woman in the palace gown covered her mouth and laughed. A trace of coldness flashed across her eyes. "Or rather, I'll destroy you right here. I'll destroy a future scourge for the dragon race." Lin Shun suddenly laughed. "Ha ha ha. I like Senior's character. Let's get straight to the point. If I receive Senior's guidance, and the extreme hell water dragon race encounters any difficulties in the future, Lin Shun, will do my best to help." The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, and he said with a cynical smile, "If I want to leave, Senior might not be able to stop me. Moreover, if Senior destroys me, the dragon race will have no future." The beautiful woman in the palace gown became even more curious. "With just you alone, how can you say that the dragon race has no future?" Lin Shun put his hands behind his back and waved his hands sternly. "With just me, it's Lin Shun." Whoosh! As soon as he said that, Luo Shuyue's bloodline power suddenly skyrocketed. Her bloodline grade rose all the way in just a few dozen breaths, and her potential increased by 10%. The beautiful woman in the palace gown was stunned at first, and then she was completely shocked. With a wave of his hand, he increased the potential of his descendants' divine dragon bloodline. What kind of move was this? Although she could achieve a similar effect, if she made a move, she definitely couldn't do it as casually as Lin Shun. Luo Shuyue's pretty face was full of surprise. When she looked at Lin Shun, her beautiful eyes were filled with autumn water and tenderness. Princess Xingyue covered her red lips with her hand, and her beautiful eyes were filled with disbelief again. How many tricks did he have up his sleeve? Could it be that the reason why the higher-ups agreed to Lin Shun is because he can improve the quality of the divine dragon bloodline? When she thought of this terrifying possibility, Princess Xingyue finally understood why the higher-ups were so determined to choose Lin Shun. He could make a dragon with the divine dragon bloodline break through the limit with a smile. This method was too abnormal. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to call him the reincarnation of a divine dragon. Lin Shun smiled casually and said, "I can let the dragon race regain its glory, and I can also let the dragon race fall into the cycle of reincarnation forever." "Senior, do you still need any answer now?" The beautiful woman in the palace gown turned around and smiled slightly. "The two of you, follow me." She flicked her sleeve, and the palace door opened. Lin Shun smiled knowingly and cupped his fists. This junior will remember Senior's kindness. The beautiful woman in the palace gown looked back and smiled. She was beautiful and charming. She smiled sweetly and said, "Lin Shun of the human race, please take care of my descendants in the future." Lin Shun smiled and said, "Definitely." In fact, the beautiful woman in the palace gown had already trusted him more than half. His earlier threat was merely a test of Lin Shun's bearing and the amount of resources he possessed. He could obtain the ancient Taishi dragon bloodline, indicating that he had received the approval of that senior. In addition, he could enter the divine dragon plane. The higher-ups of the dragon race in the outside world must have a lot of considerations. Therefore, she didn't need to test Lin Shun. The extreme hell water divine dragon had seen too many human heroes in that era. One could tell at a glance whether they were loyal or treacherous. Lin Shun suddenly asked curiously, "By the way, Senior, is there an ancient Taishi dragon's tomb here?" The beautiful woman in the palace gown looked at him in surprise and said indifferently, "There is no ancient Taishi dragon's tomb here. Ancient Taishi dragons won't die here. There are only dragon steels left behind by ancient Taishi dragons here. On them are the records of the various ancient Taishi dragons' bloodline abilities and methods to use them. The descendants of other ancient Taishi dragons are only here for them." Lin Chen frowned. It seemed like the plan wasn't going to go so smoothly. Luo Shuiwa looked back and said softly, "Lin Chen, I heard that you want to come into contact with the wills of other divine dragon ancestors. You have to be careful. Not all divine dragon wills are so easy to talk to." Lin Chen nodded and smiled. "I will persuade them. You can go into seclusion without worry." Luo Shuiwa and Lin Chen's divine dragon entered the extreme hell palace together. Chapter 1680. As soon as he entered the palace, the holy dragon, which was part of Lin Chen's body, immediately sensed the location of the bloodline attribute light ball. I haven't finished refining the 10,000 feet centipede queen's saint-level blood essence. If I can obtain the extreme hell water divine dragon's bloodline, it'll be equivalent to having 2 divine dragon bloodlines and 1 ancient dragon bloodline. My holy dragon will be invincible within the same level. As the holy dragon entered the palace to receive guidance from the divine dragon's will, Lin Chen sat cross-legged outside the palace. He left the task of collecting the other divine dragon scales in the divine dragon ruins to his clone. Lin Chen didn't dissect the items in the divine dragon's tomb nearby. Everything in the divine dragon's tomb still had divinity and more or less had the divine dragons will left behind. Lin Chen focused on refining the massive amount of saint-level blood essence remaining in the holy dragon's body. He thought to himself, "My other dragon bloodlines have already been strengthened to plus 17. If I can transform them all into divine dragon bloodlines, I'll gain many plus 17 divine dragon bloodlines in one go." Lin Chen flipped his palm, and the Yin-Yang divine dragon blood jade blood crystal stolen by the 10,000 feet centipede queen appeared in his palm. Seeing the item in Lin Chen's palm, Princess Xingyue's heart throbbed, and she cried out in shock. "Creation divine dragon blood." The next moment, Princess Xingyue saw Lin Chen absorb the divine dragon blood crystal in his palm with her own eyes. When she looked at Lin Chen, it was as if she had seen a ghost. Was this guy trying to ascend to heaven? The ancient Taishi dragon and extreme hell water divine dragon bloodlines weren't enough. He still wanted the Yin-Yang divine dragon bloodline. Just like that, Lin Chen began to absorb the creation divine dragon blood jade and refined it into his dragon body. At the same time, he assisted his holy dragon constitution in absorbing a massive amount of saint-level blood essence. As time passed in the divine dragon ruins, on the other side where the Zerg had fallen, buzz! A huge extreme 9-scorpion emperor quickly flew through the sky. When it reached the dark nebula, it crouched slightly in the void and raised its scorpion tail. This was a gesture of respect and submission. The Crimson Poison 9 Extreme Scorpion Emperor said respectfully in the language of the insect race, "My lord, there are currently more than 700 insect emperors and 1 insect king who are willing to participate in the battle. Furthermore, the news is spreading even further." Lightning flashed and thunder roared in the dim, crimson nebula. Energy that resembled a star explosion swept across the starry sky like a hurricane. The Scarlet Poison Scorpion Emperor kept quiet out of fear, not daring to make a sound. Within the crimson nebula, a pair of star-like eyes opened. This isn't enough. This little bit of power isn't enough to kill the dragon and the descendant of the ancient Taishi dragon. The eyes in the nebula were filled with hostility as he said coldly, "Go and report another piece of information. If anyone can join my team and work for me, they will be able to obtain my blood soul." As soon as these words were spoken, the Crimson Venom Scorpion Emperor's expression changed drastically. "Master, in your current condition, are you still going to offer up your blood soul? Wouldn't that be The great will in the Crimson Nebula exploded with anger. The Scarlet Poison Scorpion Emperor immediately shut up, trembling in fear. "Master, please calm down," the will said sternly. "The Blood Soul isn't important. I'm already powerless to reverse the situation. I just want to kill that guy's descendant before I die. If you work hard for me, I can grant you an opportunity to become a king." The Scarlet Poison Scorpion Emperor was wild with joy. He hurriedly kowtowed and thanked. "Thank you, my lord." An earth-shattering piece of news spread from the divine dragon realm, alarming countless members of the bug tribe. Waves of horrifying insect swarms madly surged in a certain direction, condensing and gathering as if they were preparing for the most fatal blow. Time passed. 3 months later, humanity's sacred boundary, Sage Monarch Domain, Founding Era Alliance Headquarters. The Alliance's actions had recently encountered great resistance. Their plan to purge the mortals had actually failed. There was a special team that seemed to be specifically targeting the Founding Era Alliance. Wherever the purge team went to, the other party would appear in the corresponding area. What the Founding Era Alliance needed was not only to wipe out a large number of mortals, but also to pick out lost geniuses when the parasite poison destroyed the world. With the other party's interference, the plan was messed up. Even though the Founding Era Alliance had dispatched several MT Tai and Big Dipper fortune tellers, they were unable to deduce the other party's location. However, some people of the Alliance had witnessed it. Those who had interfered with the Alliance's actions included people from the Divine Flame Palace. The Divine Flame Palace had submitted to Lin Chun. All the Alliance's powerhouses could see that the one who was obstructing the Founding Era Alliance's reform was Lin Chen's team. The higher-ups of the Founding Era Alliance seemed to have received new orders. When Lin Chen's team had stopped their plan to purge the mortals, not only did they not increase their forces, but they had also reduced their combat power in this area. It was not that the higher-ups had changed their minds, but that they had more important things to carry out. Just 2.5 months ago, the Founding Era Alliance had frantically collected the resources of a large number of forces. In particular, they wanted as many medicinal herbs as they could find, as long as it was a saint-grade treasure of heaven and earth, regardless of whether it was 1st grade or 8th grade saint grade. The Founding Era Alliance wanted them all. Rumble. In the Sage Monarch territory, a sinister and overbearing aura soared into the sky, causing the sky to darken. Countless powerhouses in the Alliance headquarters fell into the illusion that the world was spinning. This was the oppressive feeling and illusion caused by the emergence of an extremely powerful primordial spirit power at the peak of the Sacred Mountain in the Founding Era. The Sacred Mountain was named the center of the Founding Era. Only the top powerhouses could enter this place. However, at this time, on the Sacred Mountain peak, all the people on the Talent Saint list had solemn expressions. Those people on the Talent Saint list, who were arrogant and unruly to the extreme, were now solemnly staring at the other side of the Sacred Mountain peak. They saw that on the Sacred Mountain peak, 17 figures had appeared. 2 of them had recovered from most of their injuries. Their auras were like the sun at noon, and they were close to their peak condition. One of them was wearing a black robe and a cloak. He had a fierce face like an eagle, a pair of sharp eyebrows, and a pair of eagle eyes gradually appearing. The other person had white hair and a ruddy complexion. His red robe was like fire, and he had the vicissitudes of life and indifference. However, from time to time, evil-killing intent flashed between his eyebrows. In the eyes of the Talent Saint list, they were not ordinary geniuses, but a group of living legends. The black-robed old man chuckled and said, "This pill recipe passed down by the pill god is really not bad. I have recovered more than half, and I can even refine 8th grade divine pills." This person's title was Heavenless Pill Saint. Emi Tian. Before the human race's sacred boundary was established, he was already famous in the Antiquity Age. He was the strongest powerhouse of the human race, and he had the cultivation of a 9th Revolution saint. Most importantly, his alchemy skills had already reached the level of a 9th Revolution saint. 9th grade saint-level alchemist, Emi Tian. when the other old man with white hair and a ruddy complexion raised his head to look at the starry sky. An astrolabe was rotating in his pupils, and a touch of dark red flashed across his pupils. He laughed evilly. I didn't expect that the human race would have such an interesting fortune-teller. Ha! I just came out of seclusion, and I met such an interesting opponent. The Saint Geniuses suddenly felt waves of bone-piercing pain, and even their minds and consciousness felt a sharp piercing pain. It was as if all secrets could not be hidden under his gaze. It was as if with just one glance, he could see through endless secrets. In the Antiquity Age, the former number one fortune-teller of the human race, Heartbreak read. Chapter 1681. A handsome heavenly saint cupped his fist respectfully and said, "Senior Heartbreak read, are you sure you could deduce the location of those bastards' base camp?" Heartbreak Red said with a faint smile, "It's not a problem to deduce it, but you have to help me heal my injuries and use my saint power." The other two saint talents bowed and said, "Senior, don't worry. The resources will be continuously delivered. Also, because Senior Meteon is here, our alliance will help all of you in the short term." Heartbreak Red stroked his beard and smiled. "Good. Young people nowadays are very smart. I like your founding-era alliance. If this old man recovers, remember to bring a group of virgins to this old man. This old man wants their blood." Heartbreak Red licked his scarlet tongue as he talked about this, causing many of the female Saint Talon's hair to stand on end. Then he said, "Let me ask, who is the other party's fortune-teller? What kind of arithmetic is he using?" The two Saint Talents looked at each other and said in unison, "It should be Jiang Tai Su from the Divine Secrets Pavilion. His technique is star arithmetic." Heartbreak Red raised his eyebrows. "Oh, Divine Secrets Pavilion? What kind of trash sect can produce such a character's fortune-teller? Times change really fast. Forget it. Let this old man take care of him." At this time, Emi Tion chuckled. "I heard that they also have a 9th-grade Saint Alchemist." All the Saint Talents looked at each other, and a beautiful Saint Talent said seriously, "That guy's alchemist is the Pill Domain's Pill Saint Yu Wang Sheng. As for whether he's a 9th-grade Saint Alchemist or not, maybe not, maybe he is. But even if he's not a 9th-grade Saint Alchemist, he's not far from it." Emi Tion smiled playfully. "Then it seems that this old man has to be serious." Seeing the team behind the two, the higher-ups of the Alliance held their breaths. They never dreamed that in this era they would be able to see the legends of the past with their own eyes. Behind the two, there were a total of 15 people. Other than Emi Tion and Heartbreak Red, the other 15 were super legends that were not inferior to them at all. Every single one of them was an existence that had shaken the world back in the day. They could be said to be the strongest below the true gods. A blue-clothed young master on the Saint Talent list exclaimed in amazement. The white-robed man up there should be Zhou Baichuan, the only disciple of the silent god of time and space. He's in charge of space-time divine arts. That beautiful woman must be the woman from the primordial era who had studied all the forbidden techniques of the ancient Buddhas. She must have understood the forbidden technique of the 5 paths of hell, Wildflower Black Rose. Rumor has it that the two men with golden and silver horns on their heads were conjoined holy nascent souls born during the primordial era. Even after they were separated, they were still gold horn and silver horn Death Reapers. The other saints nodded and said solemnly, "I once heard from the elders in the clan that when the two brothers join forces, they can display a battle prowess that is more than 10 times stronger than what is shown on the surface. They are the one and only matchless partners in this world." In the primordial age, he was a powerful assassin who had even assassinated a Saint King. He was a nightmare that struck fear into the hearts of peak experts. At this moment, the two Saint Geniuses turned their gazes to the other side. Over there was a towering figure standing high in the sky. This person is the Saint King who refined his body using the power of calamity, cosmic storms, and the heaven and earth mutated demon dragon's bloodline, Taiwan Overlord, Qing Wangu. How terrifying. It's not as simple as just having talent. Using the power of cosmic storms and calamity to refine his body. He even dared to refine the mutated demon dragon's bloodline. He's really a lunatic. The two Saint Geniuses' eyes were full of awe. If he wasn't imprisoned in the demonic eye of hell, his current achievements would be unimaginable. Beside Qing Wangu, a handsome man in a green robe stood with his hands behind his back. The ends of his hair were light and agile, elegant and unrestrained. He was as swift as the wind and as loud as thunder. He carried the sky-piercing bow on his back, and an arrow pierced through the 9 heavens. He was the son of the wind god, Tang Fenglei, who shot down 99 stars with an arrow. There is also the founder of the Return of All Paths Array, Xiangbei's. It was rumored that he had even comprehended the array that could kill all creatures except for the true gods. If he could satisfy some heaven-defying requirements for setting up the array, he would have the heaven-defying power to kill gods. During the primordial era, he created the evil path of bloodthirsty fire refinement and wrote the advanced orange mental cultivation technique. He was the Saint King who controlled all flames. He was Hua Kuang, who had devoured half of the sun, Ri Wuxia. After the primordial era, Lin Yuang, who possessed the god of light's light godblood, could travel through time and space like a divine light. There is also the only woman who had comprehended the Demon Emperor's ultimate technique, Demon Path Reincarnation, Thousand Faces exquisite Yuling Long. Other than that, there were two even more mysterious existences. They did not have a physical body, and their lower bodies were like wisps of smoke. Their beauty was unparalleled, and they were like heavenly concubines who had descended to the world, peerless. The two sisters existed in the form of primordial spirits. They were originally Saint Peaches, and because of a heaven-defying fortuitous encounter, they were able to gather spirit and specialized in absorbing the spirit of humans to cultivate. In the end, they turned into primordial spirits, formless and without a physical body, but they could cultivate the best techniques of the human race and become the strongest existence in the world at the fastest speed. Primordial spirit Peach Arrow, flying 1,000 miles, Peach Yao Yao, Peach Zhizhi. There is also the only descendant of the supreme fist god, one-punch heavenly king Yi Qinshuan. He did not have any ultimate techniques and only cultivated mental cultivation methods and techniques to reach the peak of one punch. Although he had not reached the level of Saint King, he had killed a Saint King in the primordial era. With one punch, everything fell silent. Heaven and earth returned to chaos. One had to know how difficult it was to kill a Saint King. When the Clear Sky Saint King was chased by 2 Saint Kings and a large number of experts, it was not difficult for some peerless Saint Geniuses to defeat a Saint King. But to kill a Saint King alone was too difficult. It was almost impossible, and Yi Qinshuan only needed one punch. He also only needed one punch. However, such a monstrous character was not the most shocking one among the 17 people. The strongest were the black-armored man and the elegant young man with an evil temperament standing at the back of the group. When these two people stood there, it was as if they were holding up the whole world. Sword intent pierced through the clouds, and saber intent cut through the 9 heavens. Sword God's son, Jin Taichu. Saber God's descendant, Jiang Poi. Even the arrogant people on the Saint Talent list had to restrain their arrogance in front of these two people. These 17 people were all heaven-shaking Saint Geniuses, demonic geniuses, and unique geniuses whose names shook the world before the sacred boundary was established. And Jin Taichu and Jiang Poi were already recognized as the strongest Saint Kings in the primordial era before the human race's sacred boundary was established. If the strongest Saint Kings of that era were to recover to their peak, no one could imagine how terrifying this group would be if they recovered to their peak. In addition, the Founding Century Alliance had joined forces with the Holy Prison this time. This time, no matter how strong Lin Chen's group was, they would be powerless against this legendary group. The situation was getting more and more chaotic. Chapter 1682. Rumble. A true dragon descended from the sky. The true dragon disappeared, and the cold true dragon Saint King and the wickedly handsome thousand fox Saint King appeared. True dragon Saint King walked up to the 17 people and said, "Everyone, I hope you know why we released you this time. If you have second thoughts, you will face the consequences. If you cooperate with us, you will have plenty of opportunities." The 17 people frowned, and their eyes flickered. The 9 killer seals in these 17 people were the holy prison's divine seals, which were different from the seals of ordinary criminals. Their 9 killer seals were deep in their bones and origin, and only true gods could remove them. True Dragon Saint King and Thousand Fox Saint King only had the right to control them, not remove them. Thousand Fox Saint King laughed and tried to smooth things over. "We have already found the herbs and resources for you. It won't take long for you to recover to your peak." He looked at Mitian and smiled. "Your Excellency, Mitian, we will have to trouble you after you recover." Heavenless Pill, Saint Mitian, chuckled meaningfully. "No problem. This old master has returned to the human race. It just so happens that his alchemy skills are rusty and his hands are itching to try. Now that there's an opportunity to perform alchemy, I won't let it go. Go ahead." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A group of people flew over from the peak of the Divine Mountain. They were the representatives of the various grade 9 sects of the Founding Era Alliance. They brought the massive amount of resources they had recently plundered, as well as the treasures of their subordinates. It just so happened that they wanted to come and see for themselves if the so-called cooperation was worth the price and resources that they had to pay to help. "It's Black Rose. She is really not dead." The strange phenomenon that appeared in the sky that day was Zhou Baichuan, the only successor of the silent god of time and space. He is actually still alive in this world. Gold Horn, Silver Horn, the most terrifying assassins in the history of the human race have also appeared. What a guy. Overlord Qingyu, that lunatic who refined his body with the power of 10,000 tribulations, is also not dead. The son of the wind god, Tang Fenglei. It is said that before he was captured, he once used a fatal arrow to destroy almost half of the grade 9 sects. The strongest holy kings, Jiang Poi and Jin Taichu. The representatives of the various grade 9 sects were completely shocked when they brought the resources over. Previously, they were still doubting the holy prison, but when they saw it in person, all their doubts were dispelled. This team was too terrifying. If they recovered to their peak and eliminated Lin Shun and the others, if the Holy Penitentiary chose to go against the Founding Era Alliance, then at that time, the number one enemy of the Founding Era Alliance would be Holy Prison. The true dragon Saint King was meticulous. He purposely let these 17 people show themselves so that the Founding Era Alliance wouldn't know of their bargaining chips. However, he naturally knew what the Alliance was afraid of. The true dragon, Saint King, smiled for the first time and cupped his hands at the representatives of the 9th rank sections. "Everyone, the Holy Purgatory only wants Lin Chen's life to answer to the great creators. The Holy Prison will not interfere with the hegemony of the Founding Era Alliance. I can sign a contract with you. If we violate it, you can deal with it according to the rules." A contract between Saint Kings required blood essence as a catalyst. Violating the contract would cost 1/2 of their life at the very least. The binding force was extremely strong. With this promise, the 9th rank representatives were slightly relieved. At least for now, they would not be disloyal. Curing these 17 people was the most important thing. With the former number 1 fortune teller of the human race, Heartbroken Red, it was only a matter of time before they found Lin Chen's team in Godflame Palace. Wuji Celestial Palace, Taiji Palace. The Wuji old man was observing the new Tai chess game. On the chessboard, there were 4 different colors of chess pieces that intersected with each other. While the Wuji old man was studying a new way to break the game, suddenly he squinted his eyes and looked into the distance. He looked through the void and muttered to himself, "Another fortune teller has appeared. Could it be an expert from that era? He has come with ill intentions." Qianing Xue, who was sitting beside him, asked curiously, "Great-grandfather, what did you say?" Ever since Qianing Xue lost to Lin Shun, she had returned to the Wuji old man's side and was much more obedient. The Wuji old man smiled and said, "Haha, come, let's see the game between the blue and red chess pieces." Qianing Xue pointed at a place on the chessboard and was puzzled. "Great-grandfather, you told me to treat the red chess pieces as the demon human race. But the red chess pieces are so weak. How can it move between the black and white chess pieces? Is there something wrong with this game?" The Wuji old man smiled and said, "The chess game seems to be random. In fact, there are hidden benefits. Look." He raised his hand and placed a blue chess piece in the center, blocking the other 3 chess pieces. When Qianing Xue looked carefully, her beautiful face changed slightly. The blue chess piece seemed to be facing the black and white chess pieces head-on, but in fact, it was secretly protecting the red chess piece. Qianing Xue exclaimed, "Blue protects red? Who is the blue chess piece? Who can protect the demon human race? Could it be the demon race?" Qianing Xue was extremely intelligent and talented. She immediately thought of the main point. When the demon human race was first born, they were weaker than any other race and did not have a strong foundation. Logically speaking, they should not be able to do anything. But now, the demon human race was growing stronger and stronger. The demon human race was able to grow up safely among the other races. Perhaps it was because of the protection of the demon race. Qianing Xue said in surprise, "Great-grandfather, you mean that the demon race wants to protect the demon human race and make them a part of the demon race?" The Wuji old man smiled and said, "Have you seen a chess piece that changes color? If that's the case, this game should only have 3 colors at the beginning." Qianing Xue's pupils trembled. She repeatedly pondered over her great-grandfather's words. The Wuji old man looked into the distance and sighed in his heart. The gods created the demon human race's sin, but they want the mortals to bear it. The gods of the sacred boundary are the same as the gods of the god world, greedy and selfish. They claim to be the supreme and pure gods, but they are more like monsters that only pursue power and have no bottom line. Dong! At this time, a vigorous bell rang in the Wuji heavenly palace. The moment he heard the bell, the Wuji old man's expression changed. Qianing Xue was stunned. She had never seen her great-grandfather like this. Shock, fear, and even panic flashed across the Wuji old man's face. "Great-grandfather." Qianing Xue wanted to say something. With a whoosh, the Wuji old man disappeared. At the highest point of the heavenly palace, there was a huge, resplendent golden bell. The Wuji old man came to the side of the golden bell with a solemn expression. Qianing Xue followed closely behind him, standing behind him. It only rang once. The Wuji old man stared at the golden bell and fell into deep thought. This was the Wuji heavenly bell. It was connected to the luck and fate of the sacred boundary. It was the Wuji old man's strongest fortune-telling tool. Even if a calamity happened in the sacred boundary, it would not ring. It would only vibrate. But just now it had rung once. The Wuji old man looked into the distance and muttered to himself. A single sound means that someone from the god world has descended. Although it was only for an instant, there is indeed a being from the god world that has descended somewhere in the sacred boundary. There is actually a being from the god world that had descended on the sacred boundary. Even if they hid well, they could not avoid the Wuji old man's prediction. Who was it? Chapter 1683. However, the Infinity Elder was still able to calm himself down. What the Infinity Sky Bell could sense meant that the other party was not too far out of his range. The scary thing was that when some beings from the divine world descended, even the Infinity Sky Bell could not sense them. She asked with lingering fear, "Great-grandfather, could it be that a powerful being from the divine world has descended?" The Infinity Elder shook his head. "I don't know. It's not clear whether they're friends or foes. Qian Yingxue hesitated. But there are also powerful beings in the sacred boundary. They should be Yingxue. The Infinity Elder looked at her seriously. Qian Yingxue was stunned. This was the first time she saw her great-grandfather reveal such an expression. It was much more serious than when Lin Shun killed a Sage King with one punch. Don't judge beings from the divine world with common sense. We are beings from the third dimension. They are beings from the fourth dimension. Dragon Realm. Boom! Outside the Dragon King Palace, a majestic dragon aura was released, shaking the space and suppressing the surroundings. Damn it, you're still quibbling even at this point. Are you still going to protect the evil human race? Angry curses spread outside the palace. Countless dragons were stunned and shocked. They immediately distanced themselves from the Dragon King Palace. Forget it. It's useless to count on you. I'll take care of this kid personally. When he comes out, I'll take down his secret or his position. Pass down my order. Gather all the Dragon Kings. A huge storm was brewing in the Dragon Realm with Lin Shun as the center. It was getting more and more intense. Lin Shun did not know what was waiting for him in the Dragon Realm, in the Divine Dragon Realm, in the nebula where the dragon head was. Outside the beautiful blue palace, Lin Shun opened his eyes. His pupils turned from blue to black and white, and finally returned to their usual black color. Congratulations on successfully upgrading your bloodline. You now possess the Extreme Hell Water Divine Dragon Bloodline. Attribute points, 5 billion. Level has been automatically synchronized. All the bloodline abilities of the host. Azure Dragon Sword has been upgraded to the Extraordinary grade. Extreme Hell Heavenly Prison has been upgraded to the Peerless grade. Congratulations on successfully upgrading your bloodline. You now possess the Yin Yang Divine Dragon Bloodline. Attribute points, 5 billion. Level has been automatically synchronized. Bloodline ability automatically inherited. Attribute, Undying Creation. Grade, Peerless. Lin Shun heaved a sigh of relief. When he stood up and looked at himself, he said happily, "Good fellow, I've obtained 2 divine dragon bloodlines. The divine dragon has even broken through the limit of 500,000 venerable ones." Lin Shen's current Saint Dragon, after killing the Centipede Queen and dissecting countless divine dragon scales, had 500,000 Saint force. Just pure strength alone was enough to contend with a half-step Saint King who had just opened the 100th Saint point. However, 500,000 venerable powers was a limit. If one wanted to improve beyond that, even the ancient dragons with extraordinary talents would have to take a very slow time. This was also the reason why many revered dragons had yet to become Dragon Kings. 500,000 revered energy to 990,000 revered energy. 9,900,000 Zun energy to 1 million Zun energy were 2 huge boundaries. The corners of Lin Chen's lips curled up. The divine dragon scales that my doppelganger has dissected during this period of time are a little terrifying. The speed at which I kill the insectoids and the speed at which I dissect the divine dragon scales are completely proportional. Furthermore, Lin Chen's palm pressed against his dantian. That was the location of the 46th Saint point. The accumulation had almost reached the limit. Whoosh! Within the Azure Palace, a stream of light flew out. It was Lin Chen's Saint Dragon. The Saint Dragon had already completed its bloodline transformation and baptism. Professor Extreme Hell Water Divine Dragon's focus was still on Luo Shueiyue. Lin Shun could only be considered a promotion in passing. Now that the Holy Dragon had taken human form, he had a pair of black and white dragon eyes of yin and yang, azure dragon horns, and a slender body covered in golden dragon scales. His aura was cold and stern, and his charisma was even greater. Lin Shun patted the Saint Dragon and was very satisfied. Almost 1/10 of my handsomeness, as expected of one of my signature dragons. Just as he was about to move, Princess Xingyue followed closely behind and asked, "What are you going to do?" During this period of time, Princess Xingyue had also received the inheritance of the Imperial Golden Dragon. However, she would come back every month to monitor Lin Chun. After all, Lin Chun's combat power was still too dangerous. If he had any thoughts about other divine dragon descendants, it would be very difficult to restrain him outside of the divine dragon graveyard, except for the dragon seal that Princess Xingyue was in charge of. She had to be responsible for the mission given to her by the dragon clan. Lin Chun smiled teasingly. Do I have to report to you if I want to pee? Princess Xingyue, I don't have to. Princess Xingyue snorted coldly. Vulgar words. Lin Chun raised his eyebrows. Peeing is vulgar? What about he? Princess Xingyue. Lin Chun chuckled and did not continue to tease her. With a wave of his hand, the Saint Dragon returned to his body. He transformed into the Saint Dragon's human form and soared into the sky, rushing to the other dragon graveyards. Princess Xingyue followed closely behind, staring at Lin Chun with her almond-shaped eyes. Lin Chun arrived at a grayish-white continent. At the end was a magnificent mountain peak. The mountain peak seemed to contain a world-destroying energy. It was a shocking sight. When Lin Chun descended, the gravity suddenly increased. At least, it increased by 500 million times. One had to know that during the selection of the 10,000 Dragon Assembly, the gravity in the Heaven Barbarian Plane was only a few million times. Here it was hundreds of millions of times. Lin Chun narrowed his eyes. Is this the Tianyue Prison Dragon's dragon graveyard? His primordial spirit could sense that between the mountains, there was a raging storm of dragon breath. In the divine dragon plane, such a strong space and 500 million times the gravity in the Tianyue Prison Dragon's dragon graveyard were still able to wreak havoc. One could see how terrifying the energy here was. Lin Chun rubbed his chin. Good heavens! The energy here is so abundant. It seems that the Tianyue Prison Suppressing Dragon is probably the one with the most residual energy among the fallen mystical dragons. Buzz! A pair of dragon eyes opened in the mountains. From afar, they were as huge as the sun, moon, and stars. Descendants of the Imperial Golden Dragon and Ancient Dragon. Why are you here? It was the Tianyue Prison Dragon's voice. There was an unconcealable disappointment in its low voice. It had been waiting for the descendants of the Tianyue Prison Dragon for countless years, but they had not come even once. This meant that there were no descendants of divine dragons who could enter this place in the future. It was proof of the decline of this race. Lin Chun and Princess Xingyue cupped their fists at the same time. Then Lin Chun said seriously, Junior Lin Chun is here to borrow something from Senior. The Tianyue Prison Dragons will said calmly. Descendant of the ancient dragon, what do you want? Lin Chun said, the divine bone marrow of Senior's main body. The divine dragons will said, It had fallen long ago, and its main body was badly damaged. Most of its flesh and blood had been devoured by the insect god before it died. It still had the divine bone marrow, but it was not much. If this kid was a descendant of the Tianyue Prison Dragon, it would not mind giving it to him. However, it was not. The divine dragons will said calmly, I have it, but I'm not giving it to you. You can return. Lin Chun said in a low voice, perhaps I can make an equivalent exchange with Senior. The divine dragons will said coldly, I said I'm not giving it to you. Lin Chun, there's no room for negotiation? The divine dragons will said no. Lin Chun's mouth twitched. He said bluntly, Senior, can you tell me the reason? The divine dragons will said, because you're handsome. Lin Chun. Damn, it made sense. He was speechless. Chapter 1684. Lin Chun calmed himself down and said with a smile, Senior, handsomeness is something you're born with. It can't be changed. Why don't we talk about something else? Who knows, I might have something that you need. I only need a little bit of divine bone marrow. The dragon gods will said in a low, muffled voice, don't talk about those useless things. I'm not interested in whatever you have. Don't tell me that you can repair this incomplete wool. Get lost. If it was another descendant of an ancient dragon, the Tianyue Prison Dragons might consider it. However, This kid had the bloodline of the ancient Taishi dragon. Every time it thought of the ancient Taishi dragon, it would remember the days when that big sister used it as a punching bag to practice. The Tianyue prison dragon was born with the strongest defense. Needless to say, a divine dragon had the best defense among those of the same level. Almost no one could break through it. However, that did not include the ancient Taishi dragon. The ancient Taishi dragon was an ancient dragon that had absolute attack and defense. Both its offensive and defensive capabilities were known to be the best among the ancient dragons. Every time the ancient Taishi dragon wanted to practice, it could only fight the Tianyue prison dragon with the strongest defense. However, when it sparred with the ancient dragon, she could hit it, but it could not hit her. Therefore, every time the ancient Taishi dragon was mentioned, it was a bloody history for the Tianyue prison dragon. It had a strong opinion of the ancient Taishi dragon. If Lin Chun knew the reason, he would be so angry that his mouth would be crooked. Princess Xingyue saw everything and seemed to be hesitating whether or not to tell them the fact that Lin Chun was a human. Boom! Bang! 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 Intense tremors and distortions came from the space. Lin Chun and the Tianyue prison dragons became alert at the same time. This tremor was very terrifying. It came from a large area and came from many directions from very far away. Everyone was still very far away from the Divine Dragon's tomb, but things were definitely not simple. What's going on? I think I was forcefully interrupted by the ancestor just now. There seems to be a powerful force approaching. Something's wrong. It's not just a little bit. More than a dozen Divine Dragon descendants flew out of the tomb. Whoosh! Lin Chun immediately flashed out of the starry sky. Then, a black-robed man appeared beside Lin Chun. He had dragon horns on his head, and his arms were as black as ink. His fingers were like claws as he stared into the distance. It was the primordial spirit, Will, of the Tianyue prison suppressing dragon. It and Lin Chun said almost at the same time. It's the insectoids. The moment he said that, many divine dragon descendants felt their blood run cold. The space tremor just now had the power to shatter thousands of stars in an instant. Was it the insect clan? The insectoids attacked at this time? They came with ill intentions. The other party had come with a plan. Every time the divine dragon plane opened, the divine dragon wills would be at their weakest. This was because their fragmented wills still had to guide the descendants of the mystical dragons. This further weakened the already fragmented wills of the primordial spirits. Lin Chun and the Tianyue prison-suppressing dragon looked at each other and said, "Senior, they don't come with good intentions." The latter nodded and said, "Indeed, this has never happened before." Whoosh! At this time, a beautiful figure stood beside Lin Chun and the Tianyue prison-suppressing dragon. Her mental state was not very good. It was the extreme hell water divine dragon. She said in a low voice, "The situation is not good. The insectoids are serious. Our divine dragon enchantments have all been torn apart. It's all the work of those old fellows." The dragon race had a fragmented divine dragon will. Similarly, the insectoids also had a fragmented primordial spirit of the insect god. However, the fragmented primordial spirit of the insect god was not as strong as the dragon race. Lin Chun suddenly said, "They're going to launch an all-out attack. My clone is outside," and it was suddenly ignored by the insectoids. A large number of insectoids are coming this way. The Tianyue prison-suppressing dragon looked at the water divine dragon and asked, "How many of those old fellows can move?" The water divine dragon frowned and said seriously, "Not even 7 of them can leave the tomb." The Tianyue prison-suppressing dragon said, "These old fellows are so cunning." This time, it was clear that they wanted to push the dragon tribe to their deaths. Of all times, they chose to attack during the time when the divine dragon plane had been open for more than 3 months, when the will of the divine dragons was imparting to their descendants. This could be considered their final counterattack. However, even though the divine dragon dimension had opened so many times in the past, the insectoids had never launched an all-out attack. Why did they seem to have gone crazy this time? At this time, a hoarse voice came from a few continents in the distance. Let us old fellows take care of the first few areas. The fragmented wills of a few of our old enemies have also awakened. The insectoids want to destroy our descendants. Rumble. The dazzling might of the divine dragon was like a shower of heavenly flowers, descending upon the distant space in all directions. Lin Chen's primordial spirit sensed a few divine dragon wills on the same level as the extreme hell water divine dragon. They were rushing in different directions. The Tianyue prison suppressing dragon waved and sent a voice transmission. All descendants of the dragon race, listen up. I, the Tianyue prison suppressing dragon, am giving you an official order. Before us old fellows block all the openings in the barrier, you have to go to one of the openings and fight until we repair all the barriers. All the divine dragon descendants received the order immediately and came out of seclusion. Including the Tianyue prison suppressing dragon, there were a total of 8 divine dragon wills that could leave the dragon tomb. They went in 8 different directions. Before they left, the extreme hell water divine dragon turned to look at Lin Chen and asked suddenly, Lin Chen, the future of the dragon race is in your hands. Lin Chen nodded and said, I will do my best. A stream of water light flew away, just as the extreme hell water divine dragons will left. Kakik, dragon race, today is the day we destroy your descendants. I'll let you have a taste of the fury that the insectoids have been suppressing for countless years. Even if all of you die, you will pay the price in blood. Several ear-piercing screams that shook the ancient times spread in all directions. It was the insect god's will of the insectoids. They were going to the divine dragon tomb personally, just as the terrifying divine aura was about to descend and suppress all the divine dragon descendants. Bang, bang, bang. A divine dragon's shadow suddenly swept across the sky. It opened its mouth and spat out a breath, colliding with the insect god in the distance. It was as if countless true dragons were dancing and colliding. Dazzling auroras flashed in the distant space. The auroras continued to spread like a meteor explosion. It was so terrifying that the divine dragon descendants were shocked. This was a battle between immortal realm cultivators. It was too terrifying. A single thought from them had the power to destroy the world. The divine dragon's wills kept resisting the invasion of the insect god's will from different directions. They were also repairing the barrier quickly. Lin Shun and the divine dragon descendants kept retreating until they reached the Dragon Neck Nebula of the Divine Dragon Nebula. Only then did they leave the battlefield completely. At this moment, the universe suddenly dimmed. All the starlight was covered. Rumble. The divine dragon descendants' pupils shrank. They sensed an endless number of insectoids sweeping toward them. Their numbers were not just in the billions or tens of billions. They were in the hundreds of billions or trillions. They were almost infinite. At least, most of the divine dragon realm's insectoids had gathered here. When the insect got attacked, it really wanted to eliminate the source of trouble. However, when Princess Xingyue caught a glimpse of Lin Shun from the corner of her eye, she was completely stunned. Lin Chen's mouth was wide open. He was so excited that he looked like an old pervert who had not touched a woman for hundreds of years, suddenly saw a group of beautiful women swarming toward him. He actually smiled like an idiot. Crazy. He must be crazy. Chapter 1685. The endless tide of insectoids was like an enormous storm in the universe. It was as large as a nebula, and it carried the power to push thousands of dimensions forward. There were 5 poison wild bees, 1,000 illusion butterflies, and violent sword mantises. There were fog tide worms, fatal blood leeches, and so on. There were too many zergs. It was as if all the zergs of previous generations were here. However, when some of the divine dragon descendants who were good at sensing sensed that this was only the first wave, they could not help but tremble in fear. It was as if they had returned to the war of extermination between the dragons and the zergs. It was vast and mighty. This power was too terrifying. It felt like they were going to exterminate the dragons. All the divine dragon descendants and ancient dragon descendants felt a desperate counterattack for the first time. They might be destined to return empty-handed this time and use the space jade slip to escape. This was not something that dozens of divine dragon descendants could contend against. If it were the higher-ups, the revered dragons and dragon kings would be able to suppress the situation. However, Lin Chun could not help but gulp. There are too many of them. These Zergs were full of attribute points. Those below the demonic insect rank were all heavenly Tao points. Above the insect emperor rank, there were all kinds of attribute points. Ha! With a snap of his fingers, the clones gathered. Lin Chun laughed heartily. I'll do it first. You guys can do whatever you want. Rip! Rolling sonic booms crushed the airwaves. Lin Chun actually took the lead alone. The sacred dragon left his body, and his main body led 7 clones and 1 sacred dragon to attack. Damn, he's crazy. No, we have no choice. We can only try to fight with all our might. If we use the space jade slip to leave now, all our previous efforts will be wasted. Come on, let's do it, brothers. I bloom in the slaughter like a flower in the Zerg tide. Let this crown prince experience the legends of the insectoids. The handsome dragon has already done it, and the ugly dragon is still hesitating. Not many of the descendants of the divine dragon had stage fright. Their temperament was also one of the best among the dragon race. How could they be frightened by a big battle? Luo Shueiyue and Princess Xingyue transformed into their vast dragon forms, and the other divine dragon descendants followed closely behind. A group of gigantic dragons that soared through the starry sky appeared. It was as if they had returned to the primordial era when the dragon tribe was at their peak. Transforming into their true forms would allow them to unleash their strongest attacks. They would unleash all of their firepower and maximize their destructive power. Lin Chen's recklessness had ignited the arrogance and bloodthirstiness of the dragon race. They activated the Lin Chen transformation of all of them and actually charged forward. In less than a quarter of an hour, Lin Chen was the first to rush to the front of the insect tide. Countless demonic insects swept over like a tidal wave, wanting to swallow Lin Chen directly. Rune of Slowing. Lin Chen raised his hand with a slow rune, and 8 burning dragons appeared above his head. His primordial spirit heavenly roar of the burning dragon suddenly roared and shattered the galaxy. The doppelganger raised his saber and unleashed God's tears. Saber chi fragments fell like rain. The arrow burned the sky like a meteor streaking across the night sky. The sword shadow was like an aurora, forming a row of 10,000 sword lights as it shot out. The divine dragon also revealed his true form. The ancient Taishi dragon appeared out of nowhere and swept away the sun, moon, and stars with its tail. The dragon tail turned into a sword, and the transcendent blue dragon sword split into 5 parts and annihilated countless insects. Then, the divine dragon released the extreme, hell, heavenly prison in one breath. Endless waves of anger covered the stars and the moon like waves, forming 5 earth-shattering giant prisons. The water vapor turned into blades and sickles, instantly crushing the endless insect tide. Now that it had absorbed the bloodline attribute of the water divine dragon, the extreme hell heavenly prison bloodline ability was peerless. Its power was far beyond the transcendent bloodline ability of the past. Coupled with the instant light split shadows and the dragon bloodline with 500,000 supremacy power, this move stunned all of the divine dragon descendants. The divine dragon descendants felt their scalps tingle. How did this guy's ancient Taishi dragon increase its strength by so much in just 3 months? This was at least 3 levels higher. Bam, bam, bam. Lin Chen's series of ultimate skills exploded. The rolling attacks destroyed heaven and earth, crushing the front line of the insect tide. His destructive explosion talent was activated for the 2nd time, and the sky was filled with broken wings and feathers, and blood rained down. The atmosphere was very awkward for a short time. The powerful dragons froze in the void, as if they had seen a ghost. For a moment, Lin Shen blocked the first wave of the insect tide's attack by himself. That's right, Lin Shen did not have the combat strength of a Grand Sage yet, but he had achieved results that even a Grand Sage could not. His 7 illusionary clones, 7 people, 7 moves, coupled with the instant light split shadows talent. 7 moves became 35 moves. This was Lin Shen's trump card, which was why he was the least afraid of group battles. In addition, Destructive Explosion was very useful in this group battle. Once it triggered a chain reaction, triggering Annihilation and Super Chaos. In an instant, it broke the insect tide's formation and plunged them into chaos. Because of Lin Shen's actions, hundreds of millions of insect tribe members died in the insect tide. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 billion insect tribe members died. Far away in the void, in a few nebulas that were wildly exploding like stars, the divine dragon's wills that were repairing the barrier and delaying the battle looked over. A human? The descendant of the ancient Taishi dragon is actually a human. This little guy blocked the first wave of attack right away. Good Lord, how terrifying. The rumor that this kid killed the 10,000 feet centipede is true. The Tianhua prison-suppressing dragon was shocked and angry. The descendant of the ancient dragon who dared to ask him for the divine bone marrow was actually a human? Lin Shen's explosive combat strength attracted the attention of the strongest experts in the strongest circle. A few insect gods' wills that had transformed into half-human forms also looked over. What kind of method is this? Why is there a human here? Where did this weirdo come from? You old bastard, didn't you say that everything was under control? Only the scarlet-eyed man at the front had the upper body of a human and the lower body of a scorpion. His violent eyes flashed with overflowing hostility and killing intent. Red Scorpion God. He was the leader of all the plans, a crazy insect god's will. At that moment, the eyes of Red Scorpion gods were about to burst. The ancient Taishi dragon's bloodline was actually obtained by a human. I'm going to kill him completely. Boom! The colorful divine dragon's aura turned into a dragon shadow and roared. The divine dragon's wills attacked again. You won't have a chance, you pathetic things. Since the dragon race can destroy your race and suppress you forever, today, our descendants will also destroy you forever. Devourers of other races die. The two sides erupted into a great battle again. The power shook the galaxy, and countless stars were instantly shattered into dust. The space-time around the divine dragon's ruins was distorted and collapsed. Even light could not escape from this distorted space-time. It was as if doomsday had arrived. On the other side, after a brief shock, the divine dragon's descendants joined the battle. The second wave of the insect swarm's attack was coming. The densely packed insect race army was neat and fierce. They attacked Lin Shen and his clones like a wave of ants. Lin Shen and all his clones concentrated their firepower. The momentum of this attack was clearly not as destructive as before. It had become much slower. Luo Shuiyue's dragon body sword. When she approached Lin Shen, she said telepathically, "This insect swarm is led by a large number of insect queens. Their combat power has increased by many times. Your human attacks are responsible for attacking the insect swarm. Our divine descendants and your ancient dragon are responsible for attacking the insect queens." Lin Shen smiled. "Smart. I'll treat you to supper when I'm free." Luo Shuiyue rolled her eyes. This person still did not have any sense of danger at this time. Chapter 1686. In the blink of an eye, Lin Shen and his doppelgangers reacted quickly and turned around. When they saw the 8 divine dragon descendants, their eyes glinted. Host has used Shadow Shift 8 times, consuming 2,400 top-tier talent points. Swoosh. Lin Shenhe's avatar and the descendants of the mystical dragons were instantly swapped in space. This scene made the divine dragon descendants gasp in amazement. They quickly adjusted their attacks and unleashed their bloodline abilities at the insect queens. Extreme Hell Heavenly Prison, Chaos. Lin Chun controlled the Extreme Hell Heavenly Prison with his divine dragon. While the prison crushed countless insects, it also shot out countless aurora water blades, piercing through the insect queens. The insect queen's combat power was comparable to a rank 1 to rank 7 saint, but they were crushed by Lin Chen's Extreme Hell Heavenly Prison like chickens. Even if other insect queens had special talents and didn't die immediately after being pierced by the Extreme Hell Heavenly Prison, they would gradually lose their combat power and eventually turn into a puddle of blood. Annihilation Rupture. His talent warned Lin Chen's opponent at all times. Looking at the attribute light balls in the sky, Lin Chen couldn't help but sigh. Using an unparalleled divine power with half-step Saint King cultivation. So F** King insane. Not to mention the Extreme Hell Water Divine Dragon Bloodline that was strengthened plus 17. The Extreme Prison Heavenly Prison was truly heaven-defying. If Lin Chen's Extreme Hell Heavenly Prison that was strengthened plus 17 before had a power coefficient of 100, then now it had a power coefficient of 9,999, and this didn't even take into account the half-step Saint King's cultivation. Only the bloodline abilities transformation was considered. Lin Chen's divine dragon's lethality had multiplied by countless times. Now, if anyone below peak rank 9 was trapped in the Extreme Hell Heavenly Prison, they would definitely die. Even half-step Saint Kings wouldn't have a good time if they were trapped in any of the Extreme Hell Heavenly Prisons. It would be extremely difficult for them to break out. With Lin Chen's Holy Dragon holding the fort, the second wave of the insect horde was stopped by Lin Chen and the group of mystical dragon descendants in less than a day. Lin Chen's divine dragon contributed 60% to this wave of resistance. All the divine dragon descendants and all Lin Chen's doppelgangers combined couldn't compare to the divine dragon. Just then, attribute light balls scattered in the sky. When Lin Chen's doppelgangers went to collect them, Chi, the battle skills that Lin Chen's doppelganger unleashed were all shattered and vanished into nothingness. All the divine dragon descendants' eyes focused. Lin Chen's eyes. Groups of bug kings emerged from the swarming sea of bug tribes. They surrounded hundreds of gigantic bug tribes like stars supporting the moon. The divine dragon descendants' expressions of the divine dragon descendants. Lin Chen was slightly surprised. Peak insect queen? Every peak stage Saint Kings of a rank 9 saint, or even a peak rank. The insect-tide army led by each of them could be said to be impregnable. The ordinary moves of the descendants of the mystical dragons and the power of Lin Chen's battle techniques were almost useless. Lin Chen's doppelganger's Saint Points cultivation, including the soaring elemental attributes, could only unleash about 70,000 venerable power. Even with the instant light split shadow, its power couldn't threaten a rank 9 saint in a one-on-one battle. Unless all the doppelgangers attacked one, they could fight a rank 9 saint. But now, the opponent had the advantage in numbers. And although Lin Chen's primordial spirit was powerful, its foundation was still dependent on the host's saint power cultivation to unleash its power. The primordial spirit realm was now more of a supporting method for Lin Chen. No matter what race it was, a powerful cultivation could resist the power of the primordial spirit. As long as the enemy's spiritual realm was strong enough, it wouldn't be a weakness. If the primordial spirit was a sharp blade, then the saint power cultivation was the wielder's power. Only with enough power could the blade unleash its sharpness. Therefore, the only way to fight against these peak stage Saint Kings was with the Ares 5-piece set and the divine dragon with 500,000 venerable power cultivation. A ray of golden light flashed. The Ares' power was invincible. Lin Chen's Ares 5-piece set appeared. If he wanted to fight against the third wave of insects, he had to use the Ares set. Rumble. At this time, Lin Chen's energy center stirred with Saint power. The powerful Saint power shook the surrounding void, and even the space in the divine dragon realm was about to be torn apart. Lin Chen's pupils constricted as he muttered to himself, Mother of asterisk her, it can't be at this juncture. Rumble. The space trembled, and the super-large insect tide attacked again like an avalanche. This time, the descendants of the divine dragons didn't dare to attack recklessly. The peak stage Saint Kings were opponents that only the venerable dragons of the dragon race could defeat. This opponent was too far away for the descendants of the divine dragons. 3 black, blue, and purple light pillars suddenly bloomed in the insect tide. 3 behemoths had appeared out of nowhere. The purple light was a scorpion. Its entire body was covered in a beautiful jade-like carapace. The scorpion's tail was outlined with a sharp blood-red tail, and the moon-shaped patterns in its eyes released a soul-stirring power. Insect King, Purple Moon, Jade, King Scorpion. The green light was a wasp. Its wings were as thin as a cicada's wings, and it created a turbulent hurricane. Waves of wind tore through the surroundings. The wasp's body was hundreds of thousands of feet long, and violent black electric arcs surged like an electric python. It was another insect king, the black electric wasp. The blue light was a butterfly. Its beautiful and enchanting butterfly wings bloomed like a devil's snare. Its huge body stood on the waves of butterflies. It was a lunar eclipse blue butterfly king. Behind the hundreds of peak stage Saint Kings, there were 3 insect kings controlling the insect tide. Even if they could get past the hundreds of peak stage Saint Kings, it was impossible to defeat the 3 insect kings. Unless the dragon kings attacked personally, it was impossible to fight against such a lineup. The divine dragon descendants were especially solemn. Their ancestors had not condensed the space barrier. If this continued, they would be teleported away. However, if they left halfway, everything they obtained from the divine dragon dimension would automatically be classified as the divine dragon ruins. It would be a failure. Damn it, we'll lose anyway. Before I leave, I'll destroy a bunch of insect tribes first. It wasn't easy for me to merge bloodlines with my ancestors, and now I have to go back to square one. If I don't destroy the insect tribe, I won't be able to take this lying down. Just as the divine dragon descendants' eyes were shining fiercely, and they were planning to destroy everything and fight to the end, the young man's hearty laughter echoed in the consciousness of all the divine dragon descendants. Everyone, let's begin. It's not your turn to attack. Stand aside. I'm going to give the entire insect tribe a one-of-a-kind gift. It was Lin Chun. He stepped on the dragon and stood in front of the insect tide with the ancient Taishi dragon on his back. The corners of his mouth curled up, and his eyes shone with the usual craziness. What is he trying to do? Could it be that he wants to fight the insect tide alone? Nonsense. Didn't he see the 3 insect kings? Some people are crazy, and some people are not just a little crazy. When Princess Xinyue stared at Lin Chen's back, her eyes were filled with doubt as she muttered to herself. Even if he has the ability to kill the 10,000-legged centipede king, this lineup is not something an injured 10,000-legged centipede king can compare to. Just as the divine dragon descendants were puzzled, Lin Chun leaped out of the divine dragon's head. He skillfully put on his sunglasses and smiled. Take off. Rumble. The ancient Taishi dragon roared and suddenly swung its tail. Bang! With a sweep of its tail, Lin Chun was sent flying by the divine dragon's tail. Lin Chun was like a shooting star as he shot into the insect tide. Him alone against the insect tide was like the difference between gravel and the sea of stars. There was no comparison. All the divine dragon descendants were dumbfounded. What kind of strategy was this? When Lin Chun flew into the insect tide, his hands formed seals, and his hand seals changed rapidly. Tai Fu Tian, acupoint seal release. An unprecedented explosion of acupoints began. Lin Chun said, "What is a surprise? What is a surprise? What kind of surprise is this?" Chapter 1687. Lin Shun turned into a weak meteor under the starry sky and collided head-on with the super-large insect swarm. Tai Futian sealed acupoint release. Lin Shun formed a seal with both hands, and below his dantian, the light of the 46th Saint acupoint instantly exploded. The primordial spirit power between his eyebrows rippled out, and Lin Shun focused on controlling his Saint acupoint as he slapped his chest. Slow Rune. Host activated 2,000 points of Saint Rune energy, activating Slow Rune continuously. Lin Shun began to condense his acupoints. He started by controlling the 46 Saint acupoints that he wanted to explode. From the moment the insect swarm appeared, his accumulation was already close to the limit. Now, there is no better time than this to condense his acupoints. The Saint Dragon possessed his body, and the golden divine dragon light circulated around his body. Lin Shun used the remaining dragon vein of the Saint Dragon to condense and activate the strongest Taishi divine light. The Taishi divine light from the dragon vein of 500,000 supremacy power was something that even a Saint King couldn't break. Under everyone's gaze, Lin Shun, who was supported by the Taishi divine light, rushed into the insect swarm in a few breaths. Bang! 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 The huge impact crushed all the insects in front of Lin Shun. No matter how the insect emperors and peak insect emperors attacked, they couldn't break or even stop his advance. Lin Shun advanced triumphantly all the way to the core of the insect horde. His primordial spirit power was focused on guiding the released Saint acupoints in his body. Lin Shun calmed his mind and focused. If his Saint acupoint cultivation was a spring with extreme tension and toughness, then this spring was now compressed to the extreme and was about to rebound. In terms of Saint power accumulation, I challenged many experts in the Divine Flame Palace and Saint Prison and refined thousands of high-grade odd crystals. I also killed the Insect Emperor with no talent restrictions and directly crushed the martial god avatar and the wills of the 10 true gods. Under the sacred boundary, no one in the transformation realm can have such accumulation. In addition, Lin Shun had decomposed more than 10,000 divine dragon scales, so the amount of saint-level essence he had obtained was no less than killing a Saint King. The next time Lin Shun opened his eyes, it was as if his eyes were blooming with divine light. The space between his brows was filled with a domineering aura that looked down on the world. The 3 bug kings flew into the sky when they saw Lin Shun charging into the rolling bug horde with absolute defense. Just as they were about to break through Lin Shun's defense, Lin Shun's Taishi divine light was dispelled automatically. At this moment, heavenly flowers rained down as divine light descended upon the world. The moment the Taishi divine light was removed, a massive 9-color vortex spun like a wheel and enveloped a sea of insectoids. Buzz! The dazzling hexagonal starlight suddenly bloomed under the night sky, and a vast 9-colored vortex trembled violently, exploding with boundless saint energy. Lin Shun's 7 illusionary doppelgangers suddenly appeared beside Lin Shun and sat down cross-legged to help him open the Saint acupoint in one go. Lin Shun's roar shook the heavens. 46 Saint acupoint, open for me. Buzz! A streak of light flashed past, and boundless saint energy surged into Lin Shun's 46 Saint acupoint. Rumble! 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 1,000 explosions sounded in an instant. An unprecedented explosion of saint energy swept through the sky like a tidal wave. Lin Shun's meridian condensing meridians exploded forth like a hurricane, instantly crushing all the insects below the demonic insect level. 2,000 times for 1,000 times, 6,000 times. A series of explosions sounded in the divine dragon realm, detonating the saint energy that had sunk thousands of dimensions. At one point, hundreds of peak stage bug emperors were forced to retreat. The space-time of the divine dragon realm was trembling and throbbing, as if a god had descended, and heaven and earth were prostrating. The descendants of the divine dragon retreated again and again in horror. Even the prideful descendants of the ancient dragon showed some fear and shock. My ancestors of the divine dragon realm. Lin Shun, is only at the transformation realm. This is the meridian condensation phenomenon of the human race. How is this possible? Just the meridian condensation phenomenon alone can send the insect queen flying. Countless bug emperors were crushed. The descendants of the divine dragon twitched their mouths. There was too much information, and they could not process it all at once. Princess Xingyue's beautiful eyes flickered as she muttered to herself 7,000 times. It said that on the human race's saint talent roll, apart from the legendary top 10 saints who can break through 10,000 times, the remaining 10 saint acupoint avatars are only a few thousand times. Lin Shen's first wave of saint acupoint avatars exploded from within the bug horde, and the bug emperors died like a tidal wave. Bang! With the last explosion, Lin Shen's 9-colored vortex expanded by half. His 6th saint acupoint avatar was 9,000 times. Lin Shen's 6th saint acupoint expansion was 2,700 times, which corresponded to the 6th saint acupoint avatar's 9,000 times. Just this one saint acupoint alone had increased his saint power by 12,150 saint power. It's not over yet. Let the storm come even more fiercely. Lin Shen's shoulders shook, and his aura shook the heavens and the earth. He activated the heavenly light cloud shadow movement technique and turned into countless blood shadows as he rushed towards the hundreds of peak bug emperors. Boom! Time and space trembled, and heaven and earth shook. The 9-colored vortex, which was comparable to dozens of huge stars, started to expand again. Hundreds of peak bug emperors and a sea of bug emperors were suddenly enveloped by the 9-colored vortex. Lin Shen looked up to the sky and laughed. He shouted, 47th Saint Acupoint break. Chi! Bang! 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 Thousands of explosions erupted from within the 9-colored vortex. Blood rained down from the bug emperors, and the army's advance was interrupted for the first time. Luo Shueiyue covered her red lips with her hand. She knew that Lin Shen never did things according to convention, but she did not expect him to be so heaven-defying. 6,000 times, 8,000 times, 10,000 times. Lin Shen's 7th acupoint condensation was unstoppable, and it rushed to more than 10,000 times. Following the final explosion, countless demonic insects were turned into dust. They perished and turned into endless elemental light balls. Lin Shen's 7th acupoint condensation directly rushed to 12,000 times. Corresponding to the 7th acupoint expansion, it was 3,500 times. This time, the acupoint condensation increased by 21,800 supreme power. The 47 hexagonal stars in Lin Shen's body turned into the most dazzling stars in the world, and the vast saint power surged like a heavenly dragon and rushed into the 48th saint acupoint again. The 9-colored vortex rapidly expanded again. This time, the fearless bug emperors finally showed fear. All the phantom doppelgangers focused and used the power of their primordial spirits and saint acupoints to control the surging saint power, slamming it into the 48th saint acupoint. Boom! Bang! The 48th saint acupoint was opened by the phantom doppelgangers, and the 9-colored vortex exploded continuously. This time, it was even more terrifying than the previous one, and it directly blasted the huge bug emperor army back. Lin Shun turned into countless blood-red clouds and rushed into the bug emperor army. His wild laughter spread throughout the entire starry sky. Ha ha! Bug emperors, don't run. Come and play. Weren't you very fierce just now? Don't run. You can't even kill me, a meridian condensing stage cultivator. What kind of bug emperors are you? You're a disgrace to your bug emperor ancestors. Is there no bug emperor who can fight better? Big brother bug emperor. I, Lin Shun, am itching for a beating. Just as Lin Chen's perverted laughter reverberated throughout the boundless divine dragon plain, all the divine dragon descendants felt their scalps go numb, and a chill ran down their spines. This is 2F asterisk King Scary. With just the Meridian Condensing Stage avatar, he actually suppressed all the bug emperors in the divine dragon realm. Chapter 1688. Hundreds of pinnacle bug monarchs could not even get close to Lin Chen. The moment they got close, they would be blasted away by the terrifying acupoint condensation avatar. The 8th condensing of acupoints was like crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood, surpassing the past, reaching an unprecedented 15,000 times. Just the 8th acupoint condensation avatar alone was equivalent to the 8th acupoint expansion avatar 4,500 times. Without taking into account the amplification of his mental cultivation technique, he had already broken through 33,750 supreme power. It was not over yet. Lin Chen activated his heavenly light cloud shadow movement technique to the highest level, instant light. He rushed to the back of the bug tide and went straight for the 3 bug kings. Under the horrified gazes of all the divine dragon descendants, Lin Chen seemed to be relentless. His saint power surged through the 9 heavens and crashed into the next saint acupoint. The 49th saint acupoint break. Rumble. Bang. The 9-colored saint light vortex expanded rapidly once again. In this instant, there were thousands of sounds. Lin Chen's 9th acupoint condensation avatar was like a meteor explosion, overturning the universe. Inside the 9-colored saint light vortex, blood rained down from the sky, and broken wings were reduced to dust. If the acupoint condensation avatar earlier was said to be Lin Chen's ability to suppress the bug tide army, then the acupoint condensation avatar now was the time to truly destroy the bug tide army. Every acupoint condensation avatar's explosion was no weaker than Lin Chen's saint power. The divine dragon descendants did not even have time to be shocked, as they hurriedly retreated and fled. The acupoint condensation avatar had already begun to affect them. Bang, bang, bang. 8,000 times, 10,000 times, 14,000 times, 18,000 times. Lin Chen's 9th acupoint condensation avatar reached 18,000 times. Half of the bug tide army that was as vast as the Milky Way was completely destroyed by Lin Chen's acupoint condensation avatar. These were the remnants of the bug tribe that had existed in the divine dragon dimension for countless years. Now, just the acupoint condensation avatar alone had destroyed half of them. The 3 bug kings were caught off guard earlier. In order to protect their peak bug emperors, they had lost countless elites. More than half of the bug emperors were dead. The 9th condensing of 18,000 times corresponded to the 9th expanding of 5,600 times. The 49th saint point, without including the boost from the mental cultivation method, had increased his Zun Qi by 50,400. The 3 insect kings let out sharp screams. Humans. Hateful humans. This king's blazing mirage moth army only has a little more than 100 left. This king wants you to pay with your life. Back then, I should have devoured you humans first. Boom. The moon eclipse blue butterfly king flapped its wings and flashed over in an instant, emitting a devilish light that resembled a mandala. The black lightning mad wasp turned its body and charged towards Lin Chen, carrying with it an endless amount of violent lightning. The violet moon Jade King Scorpion transformed into a ray of moonlight and flashed over. Everywhere it passed, space was corroded, swallowing the stars and absorbing the moon. The 3 insect kings had left the insect tide and were officially on the move. Lin Chen's eyes flashed with a monstrous fighting spirit. He smiled coldly and said, "I was afraid that you wouldn't come." The 7 illusionary clones around him followed like shadows. His hand seals changed again, and billions of saint-level essences turned into saint power and infused it into the 50th saint point. The Tai space in Lin Chen's heart was like the original body, and the 50th saint point was faintly forming. The saint point in the Tai space was several times stronger than the original body. A wisp of saint power was like the abyss and the sea, and the mountain sea prison could not compare to even a 10,000th of it. It was like expanding the universe and opening up the world. Looking at the insect kings charging over with more than 400 pinnacle insect emperors, Lin Shun laughed. You must accept this gift properly, insect kings. Whoosh, clang, clang, clang. With the god of war's golden light, Lin Shun wore the 5-piece god of war set and his pure strength sword. Lin Shun stepped on the golden light and used pure strength to charge straight towards the insect kings. He focused on condensing saint power with his clones and aimed at the 50th saint point. All the accumulation, all the polishing, it was all for this moment. Lin Shun still had half of the saint-level essences that had not been converted into saint power. After killing the martial god's clones and the wills of the 10 true gods in the sacred hell, his accumulation was too strong. As a result, Lin Chen's accumulation made some supreme-grade saint-level pills that targeted the acupoint condensation stage lose their effect. With the foundation of a single acupoint condensation stage being tens of thousands of times stronger, any saint-level pills that targeted the condensation stage were equivalent to nothing. Since ancient times, there had been no condensation stage cultivator more powerful than him. At least, the past generations of humans in the divine river star system did not have such a foundation. The better the foundation of the acupoint expansion, the stronger the foundation of the acupoint condensation stage. Lin Chen's 10th acupoint expansion would be 10,000 times stronger. Then his 10th acupoint condensation stage would reach a new height in history. This time, I will not have any regrets. I will give it my all. Lin Chen's gaze locked onto the slowest of the 3 insect kings, the purple moon king scorpion. System, absolute life and death. Qi. Lin Chen's entire body burned with the orange flames of life, which merged with the endless golden light of the god of war. He was like a brilliant god, an undefeatable god of war. Consumed 15,000 supreme-grade talent points. Host has activated absolute life and death, beginning to increase host strength by 30 times, 50 times. Host is currently focusing on burning life force. Speed of burning life force by 500 times, 1,000 times. Lin Shun had actually used the absolute life and death and the 5-piece god of war set. He was going to use all his life, force, and foundation to fight for the strongest acupoint condensation stage. The more Lin Shun burned his life force, the faster it flowed away. His 9-color vortex shone even more brightly. Finally, when all his preparations were at their peak, Lin Shun suddenly shook his divine body, and a million rays of holy light shone out, covering the stars and the moon. His clones and main body condensed their primordial spirits, pure strength, and holy power cultivation, and all of them rushed to the 50th acupoint. 50th acupoint, open for me. Rumble. Clang. At that moment, half of the divine dragon dimension shook, and the 9-color vortex expanded at a terrifying speed. As for Lin Shun, he charged towards the 3 bug kings without hesitation. The 9-colored vortex spun like an astrolabe and collided head-on with the 3 bug kings. It was like a collision of galaxies. Bam, bam, bam. The acupoint condensation stage's power erupted instantly. The terrifying collision of galaxies was like a storm sweeping across the universe. This acupoint condensation stage even caused the divine dragons and bug gods' wills, who were in the middle of a white-hot battle, to pause for a moment. When the dazzling 9-color vortex came crashing down, it swept through 3,000 worlds. The 3 bug kings were horrified and finally realized the severity of the problem. Every time there was an explosion, at least one bug emperor would be severely injured or killed. The acupoint condensation stage's power this time was more than 10 times, dozens, or even hundreds of times stronger than before. Even peak bug emperors, who were comparable to 9 refinement sages, could not defend against this terrifying storm. The destructive holy light vortex crushed all the remaining bug tribe members into nothingness. The explosion of holy light was like a meteor explosion, completely shattering this super large bug tribe horde. 8,000 times, 10,000 times, 15,000 times, 20,000 times. The acupoint condensation stage's power was unstoppable. It cannot be stopped at all. Chapter 1689. Lin Chen's 10th acupoint condensation was too brutal. It overturned the common sense of all living beings. It had surpassed 25,000 times, and it was still going strong. There's something strange about this human. TSK, 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 we can't resist anymore. Prick, retreat. The 3 bug kings felt that something was amiss. They turned around and fled frantically. The descendants of the divine dragons who had retreated back into the divine dragon ruins were completely dumbfounded. Their knowledge and worldview had collapsed. Just the phenomenon of the acupoint condensation alone had scared away the legendary bug kings. What kind of deity was this? When the last acupoint condensation ended, all the descendants of the divine dragons could not calm down for a long time. Their minds went blank. Luo Shuiwei, who had transformed into her human form, hovered in the air. She covered her red lips with her soft hands, unable to hide her shock. 35,000 times, rumble. When all the 9-colored holy light vortexes returned to his body, Lin Chen's body straightened up. He was like a person holding up the entire universe. His whole body was burning with orange flames, and he was wearing golden armor. 50 hexagonal stars shone on his body. His divine light was unparalleled as he stood proudly between heaven and earth. The Taishi ancient dragon carried him and danced in the sky. It was as if it was announcing to the universe that a new era had begun in the history of the 9 races. Lin Chen's 10th meridian condensation had reached an unprecedented level of 35,000 times. With the help of the illusion doppelganger, the 5-piece god of war set strength, and the absolute life and death, the final result was a perfect ending. The 10th acupoint expansion of 10,000 times corresponded to the 10th acupoint condensation of 35,000 times. Lin Chen's 50th acupoint was equivalent to 175,000 holy power. This was just the strength of the holy acupoint. When he removed the 5-piece god of war set, Lin Chen's eyes were filled with terrifying confidence. It was as if the entire universe was under his control. His absolute life and death was about to burn, and his life was about to come to an end. However, he had never been so calm and collected in such a situation. Lin Chen clenched his fists in ecstasy, feeling the saint power surging in his body. It was as if layers upon layers of new saint points had been born in the universe. They were dense with a might that could destroy worlds and split open the heavens. This was a strength that Lin Chen had never possessed before. 46th Saint Point, 12,150 Supreme Force. The 47th Saint Point, 21800 Supreme Force. The 48th Saint Point had 33750 Supreme Power. The 49th Saint Point, 50400 Supreme Power. The 50th Saint Point, 175000 Supreme Force. If the greater space-time and the supreme god possession talent were included, then it would be 4 times the original foundation. The current Saint King, in Lin Chen's eyes, was no longer an existence that could only be contended against by relying on external forces. Lin Chen's gaze instantly locked onto the fastest black lightning bee in front of the violet moon Jade King Scorpion. Lin Chen soared into the air, and the holy dragon roamed the void. It was in charge of collecting the attribute light orbs left behind after the insect tide was annihilated. Shadow shift. Lin Chen's figure disappeared in an instant. Consumed 20,000 top-grade talent points to activate Shadow Shift. Immediately after, the huge body of the Black Lightning Bee appeared in Lin Chen's previous position. Not only was the Black Lightning Bee stunned, but even the descendants of the Divine Dragon were dumbfounded. Princess Xingyue's beautiful eyes trembled. This move is when Lin Chen and the Black Lightning Bee's positions changed. He appeared right in front of the Violet Moon Jade King Scorpion. What? The Violet Moon Jade King Scorpion was shocked. Its scorpion tail, which was glowing with a beautiful poisonous light, stabbed violently at Lin Chen. Lin Chen's right arm flickered with the light of thousands of high-grade odd crystals as he struck out with his palm. The boundless and violent Saint force pierced through the greater space-time, and all the Saint points rushed out. They burned fiercely and condensed into a palm. A giant palm burning with 9 layers of Saint flames struck out. 9-layer burning sky palm. But this palm of Lin Chen's had an all-powerful aura that could incinerate the universe. One palm was divided into 5 palms. Boom, boom. The 9 layers burning sky palm blasted the Insect King rank Violet Moon Jade King Scorpion back. It let out a sharp cry of pain and exploded with Saint flames that lit up the night sky. Lin Chen's movement technique was like light as he transformed into layers of sky and clouds, crossing millions of miles in just a breath's time. Lin Chen appeared above the Violet Moon Jade King Scorpion's head like a ghost. He activated his Saint Force and punched down violently. Boom! The hard scorpion's shell trembled violently, causing its blood to churn. Lin Chen's hands suddenly condensed into a giant hand of Saint Light and grabbed its scorpion tail. In a life-and-death situation, Lin Chen laughed mockingly. "Give me a magic circle of love." The giant hand of Saint Light held the scorpion tail and spun it more than 10 times in the air like a windmill. It stirred up a huge storm and suddenly flung it out horizontally. The scorpion flew backward and smashed into 4 or 5 huge stars with a bang. It's not over yet. The Insect King can't only be at this level, right? Lin Chen laughed wildly as he closed in. He held the demon's slaying spear with his 5 fingers. The tip of the spear flicked continuously, and streaks of dark lightning appeared across the starry sky. The tip of the spear was as fast as lightning. Every time the spear struck the Violet Moon Jade King Scorpion, there would be a shocking explosion of thunder. Bang, bang, bang. The starry sky shook. With the spear in his hand, Lin Chen was like an undefeatable god of war. He crushed the Violet Moon Jade King Scorpion all the way. All the Divine Dragon descendants were stunned on the spot as their teeth chattered. A brutal beating, a real brutal beating. He was too damn strong. He was ridiculously strong. A dignified Insect King at its peak was being beaten by a transformative realm cultivator. Princess Xingyu stared blankly at his back. She knew very well that the situation this time was completely different from the 10,000-legged centipede queen. Lin Chen did not use the golden armor from before. He was completely suppressing the Violet Moon Jade King Scorpion with his cultivation base. Sage 4th Stage Acupoint Expansion Realm. Sage 5th Stage Transformative Realm. Sage 6th Stage Life and Death Realm. Sage 7th Stage Receiving Star Realm. Sage 8th Stage Sacred Heart Realm. Sage 9th Stage Opening Heaven Realm. And now, Lin Chen was only at the great circle of the transformative realm, but he had the cultivation base of a Sage King. Above the transformative realm was life and death, Receiving Star, Sacred Heart, Opening Heaven, First Revolution to 9th Revolution, and finally, Sage King. This was no longer something that could be described as challenging someone of a higher realm. It was a full 49 levels of the 5th stage. Realms were like a joke in front of Lin Chen. The princess' beautiful golden eyes flashed with a strange light. She clenched her jade-like hand and mumbled to herself, "How many secrets does he have?" This scene fell into the distant nebula. The powerful divine dragon wills were all shocked. The insect god's primordial spirit was completely stagnant. The scarlet scorpion god's huge primordial spirit even mocked himself in disbelief. There's such a thing? The current human race has already defied the heavens to such an extent. The divine dragons and insect gods used to be so glorious and powerful. They had a wide range of experience and read the history of various races, both ancient and modern. They had seen the insect ancestor create the insect race. They had seen the ancestral dragon bear the fire and give birth to all things. They had seen the Azura king split open the sea of chaos and ascend to the divine world. They had seen the human sage turn into a god. They had seen the demon race pursue a divine king. However, they had never seen such a human being. He could suppress a sage king as a transformative realm cultivator. In time, if he was bestowed the title of sage king and defied the heavens to become a god, he might be invincible in the divine river galaxy, overturning the history of all races and ascending to the four-dimensional divine world would no longer be a legend that only belonged to the insect ancestors and ancestral dragons. Chapter 1690. Lin Chen's demon-slaying spear cracked the violet moon, jade, king scorpion shell. It waved its poisonous pincers wildly, and the poisonous gas was like a sharp blade. Wherever it passed, stars exploded. The violet moon jade king scorpion missed again and again. Lin Chen's movement technique was too fast. With his current cultivation, there were very few people in the human sacred boundary who could compare to Lin Chen. This almost became a battle situation. As long as Lin Chen hit the violet moon jade king scorpion, it could only take a beating. It was completely cornered. The violet moon jade king scorpion's blood spurted and turned into elemental light balls that covered the sky. Lin Chen waved his spear and stabbed repeatedly. His spear danced like a dragon, and his aura was like a rainbow as he crushed everything in his path. Every move of his had the probability of activating destructive explosion and destructive explosion, not to mention that his instant light split shadows was equivalent to 5 moves. No matter how strong the violet moon jade king scorpion's defense was, it could not withstand Lin Chen's crazy attacks. The violet moon jade king scorpion's huge body was bleeding profusely, and its skin was lacerated. In less than 100 rounds, it was covered in wounds by Lin Chen. The effect of destructive explosion made it despair. Squeak, I'll fight you to the death. With a fierce roar, the violet moon jade king scorpion gathered all its energy on its scorpion tail. Whoosh! Lin Chen did not use his spear. An array of starlight appeared out of nowhere. Lin Chen grasped it, and it was as if he was controlling the power of the stars, and it transformed into a star bow. The bowstring was fully drawn. Lin Chen's holy power formed an arrow, and the arrow burned the sky. Suddenly, the scorpion's tail rushed over, gathering all the power of a scorpion king. Lin Chen pulled the bowstring fully, and the arrow burned the sky. It was divided into 5. Rumble, sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. An aurora suddenly bloomed between heaven and earth, and then it turned into rolling flames that burned the sky. The scorpion tail that the violet moon jade king scorpion was so proud of was pierced by the 5 arrows, and it exploded from the inside out. The host has triggered 2 destructive explosions. The enemy target has been eliminated. Life and death denial has been lifted. After the life and death state was lifted, Lin Chen's Saint energy was slightly weakened, but it was still very powerful. The next time he activated absolute life and death, if he burned his life force with his current cultivation base, the increase wouldn't be as simple as 10%. Dead, the insect king, who is comparable to our dragon king, couldn't even last 200 rounds against Lin Chen. How heaven-defying is his growth arc? The descendants of the divine dragon were trembling with fear. This human was way too bloody scary. The moment the violet moon jade king scorpion perished, The remaining two insect kings felt their blood run cold. The moon-eclipsing blue butterfly monarch was still fine. It had at least managed to run quite a distance away. The black lightning frenzy bees had been held back by the ancient Taishi dragon's 5 extreme prison heavenly prisons since the beginning. They didn't have time to escape. Lin Chen smiled coldly. When I do things other than being fair, there's nothing else I can do. Since the Jade King Scorpion is dead, of course, I have to be fair to everyone. Lin Chen slowly raised his hand and smiled mockingly. 2 insect kings aren't qualified to escape from my hands. The corners of his mouth curled up crazily, and his hearty laughter filled the entire universe with saint energy. There are still 7 others like me. Smack! With a snap of his fingers, a divine light shone down. Host has consumed 140,000 saint energy points to activate level 8 Phantom Rune. Synchronizing host strength. Whoosh! 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 The cultivation base of Lin Chen's 7 phantom clones suddenly skyrocketed. In just 1,000th of a breath, they had reached the same peak state as Lin Chen's main body. The descendants of the divine dragon were all going crazy. What was going on? It was fine that Lin Chen's main body was so freakish, but even his clones were so heaven-defying. How the hell were dragons supposed to live? How could there be such a monster in the human race? This kid must be from the divine realm. Lin Chen's current Saint Acupoint cultivation base was boosted by Tai space and extreme god's possession. In theory, it should be comparable to 1525970 Saint energy. That's right, 1 million Saint energy was the limit of a Saint King. However, the lethality of Lin Chen's Saint energy did not exceed 5 million venerable energy. From the battle just now, Lin Chen felt that the Saint energy's lethality was around 1,100,000 Saint energy. And after removing absolute life and death, it was exactly 1 million Saint energy's lethality. The 500,000 exalted force was a huge boundary between 999999 exalted force and 1 million exalted force. This boundary was the difference between a peak half-step Saint King and a real Saint King. In theory, the 500,000 Saint energy was just enough to fill in the gap between a half-step Saint King and a Saint King. Therefore, Lin Chen's 50 Saint Acupoints at the perfect transformation realm and the virtual Saint Acupoint in Tai space added up to more than 1 million Saint energy's lethality, reaching the limit of a Saint King. The perfect transformation realm had the same Saint energy as a Saint King. The current Lin Chen could have the combat power of a Saint King without the help of a series of trump cards. His numerous orange tier talents would allow his combat prowess to be several levels higher than a normal Saint King. Whoosh! In an instant, Lin Chen's phantom doppelgangers split into 2. 4 of them went to chase after the moon eclipse blue butterfly king, and 3 went to surround the black lightning mad bees. Although Lin Chen's Saint Dragon was injured, it had the yin-yang divine dragon bloodline's talent of self-recovery, so it was not injured. On the contrary, it quickly helped Lin Chen to collect a large number of attribute light balls. Princess Xingyue looked at Lin Chen's back and was slightly stunned. She was in a daze. A human who had the Taishi ancient dragon bloodline and could unleash the ancient dragon bloodline to a whole new level. A human who could kill the insect king at perfect 5th level saint. Such a man would definitely be the leader of the human race in the future. Princess Xingyue recalled Lin Chen's words. It's not a question of whether I, Lin Chen, am worthy of the ancient dragon bloodline. It's whether this ancient dragon bloodline is worthy of me, Lin Chen. The beauty smiled bitterly. Is actually speaking the truth. Unknowingly, Lin Chen's impression in Princess Xingyue's heart had undergone some kind of magical change. A moment later, just as the descendants of the divine dragon secretly heaved a sigh of relief and felt the joy of being spared from a calamity, they thought that everything was over. Lin Chen suddenly turned around. His gaze was fixed on the battle circle at the top of the Dragon Head Nebula from afar. The descendants of the ancient dragon looked at his restless gaze, and their hearts throbbed. Hey, it can't be. Is this kid going to rumble? Lin Chen's figure flashed, and Cloud Shadow shone brightly in the sky. He held the demon-slaying spear in his hand, and wore the moon-chasing heavenly morning robe as he charged toward the battle circle at the top of the Dragonhead Nebula. This time, all the descendants of the divine dragon sucked in a breath of cold air. Today, the descendants of the divine dragon had their understanding subverted several times. They were all frightened by Lin Chun. Mother Kerr, this kid is serious. He charged toward the battle circle of the divine dragons. He's going to King ascend to the 9 heavens. Even the proud descendants of the ancient dragon had to admit that Lin Chun was an unprecedented monster in all aspects. He's too awesome. Why is he so fierce? This crown prince doesn't submit to anyone except Lin Chun. Damn it, why don't you ascend to the 9 heavens? He had just reached the perfected transformation realm, but he actually wanted to destroy the will of the insect god's primordial spirits. Was he even human? Lin Chun said, "Take off, don't talk." Chapter 1691. Boom! Billions of cloud shadows appeared in the sky. Lin Chun stepped on the cloud shadows with a spear in hand and rushed toward the top-level battle circle. This time, it was the insect god and the divine dragons that were stunned. How dare a level 5 saint interfere in a battle between divine realm cultivators? Even though the divine dragon and the insect god had been dead for countless years, the wills of the gods were still gods. A tiger was still a tiger, even when it was about to die. It was not something an ant could go against. The battle between the wills of the gods was definitely not something a sage king could interfere with. But Lin Chun charged forward with his spear. How could they not be stunned? Powerful as the divine dragon and insect god were, they had never seen a level 5 saint with such wild methods and guts. Lin Chun used the Tai Sky concealing technique and resisted the god's power without batting an eyelid. However, the Tianyue hell-suppressing dragon was the first to react. Its vast and majestic primordial spirit stretched out its dragon head, covering the stars and the moon. It sent a message to Lin Chun in a muffled voice. "Lin Chun, let's delay this red scorpion god. It's the mastermind of this operation. It's willing to share its blood with the other insect god's remnant wills. It looks like it's the strongest in the battle now, but it's actually the weakest. I'll delay it for you, and you'll go and attack its eyes." Lin Chun laughed heartily. Ha, Senior Dragon, you're so straightforward. It's a deal. I won't return until I destroy its chrysanthemum. Boom! The Tianyue hell-suppressing dragon's attack suddenly increased. Its dragon light was as dark as the abyss, and it slashed down with its claw. This claw was like the sky was falling, and the entire sky was being turned upside down. The red scorpion god's essence soul waved its scorpion tail violently. The scorpion god's stinger collided with the divine dragon's claw, and the red scorpion god was forced to retreat continuously. The red scorpion god's human upper body appeared, and it gritted its teeth. This old bastard actually has such strength. Did he not use his full strength just now? The red scorpion god saw Lin Chun coming toward it and laughed sinisterly. "I was worried that I wouldn't be able to kill you, and now you've delivered yourself to me." Boom! A pitch-black storm that could devour the starry skies swept over. Lord Scarlet Scorpion's expression changed drastically, and he opened his mouth to spit out a dazzling scarlet light. The scarlet light's aura could even corrode the divine dragon plane's space into a vacuum. When the crimson light collided with the pitch-black storm, the world fell silent. All of the spatial fragments seemed to vanish in an instant. The red scorpion god's primordial spirit was focused on dealing with the Tianyue prison suppressing dragon. He could not afford to be distracted. As for Lin Chun, it didn't care about him at all. No matter how strong he was, his battle prowess could only threaten Saint Kings. Deity realm, he was still miles away. Potential is potential. Combat power is combat power. These were two completely different concepts. Bang, bang, bang. While the red scorpion god was being pushed back by the Tianhua prison suppressing dragon, the red scorpion god's tail swept across the sky and tore through the Tianhua prison suppressing dragon's Yuan Shan defense. On the arm of the Tianhua prison suppressing dragon's Yuan Shan, a red light flashed intensely and a string of green smoke rose. The red scorpion god's Yuan Shan laughed sinisterly and said, "Do you really think I can't defeat you? This poison is enough for you to enjoy for a few hundred years." Unexpectedly, a piece of Yuan Shan scales, which had been corroded and smoking, fell on the Tianhua prison suppressing dragon's body, and the corners of its mouth curled up slightly. The red scorpion god's pupils contracted. He had actually predicted this move of his. Buzz! A wisp of extreme holy light blossomed with beautiful starlight of 9 different colors. It was Lin Shun. He held a ball of 9-colored starlight in his palm. It was as beautiful as a shooting star and as beautiful as the stars. The burning light was as beautiful as a god's. The 9-colored starlight reflected the young man's wild smile as he swung his arm toward the sky. Whoosh! The night sky was sliced open, and the 9-colored starlight illuminated the universe. It crashed toward the red scorpion god's Yuan Shan like an ant trying to shake an elephant. WH! The red scorpion god still didn't understand why this young man was immune to his divine power. The Tianhua prison suppressing dragon, who was opposite him, smiled knowingly. The Tianhua prison suppressing dragon seemed to have expected this, and it quickly retreated. The Yuan Shan's body flashed, and it transformed into several times the speed of light, instantly retreating far away. Buzz! The 9-colored starlight split into 5 and suddenly bloomed into 5 9-colored pillars of light. The 9-colored pillars of light opened up the universe and bloomed with resplendent holy light, enveloping more than half of the red scorpion god's Yuan Shan. The pillars of light spun slowly and overflowed with an aura of destruction, twisting into everything enveloped by the light and annihilating everything. Lin Shun was panting, and his face was unusually pale. There was a sense of detachment. He quickly retreated, but his eyes were shining with an extremely excited light. The 9 Calamity star had always been one of his trump cards. The strength of its power was directly linked to Lin Chen's Saint Cave origin, cultivation, Yuan Shan's strength, and elemental attributes. In terms of Yuan Shan, the current Lin Shun was not weaker than most Saint Kings. In terms of sacred power, he had reached the destructive power of a Saint King. Not to mention that Lin Shun had absorbed thousands of high-grade odd crystals and decomposed tens of thousands of divine dragon scales. Lin Shun looked at the 9-colored pillars of light that continued to expand, and his Saint Cave quickly absorbed the massive amount of golden Saint Origin coins in the luck plant pouch. He thought to himself, if I don't use other trump cards, this is my strongest attack at this stage. Even a Saint King would have a slim chance of survival if he were to face it head-on. Unless it's an old monster like the Chief Grand Elder of the Divine Flame Palace. Even if he doesn't die, he would be seriously injured. I just don't know how effective it will be against the insect gods will. The 9 Calamity Stars had gathered all of Lin Shen's Saint Cavern Saint Energy and Saint Cavern's Origin Energy. It was the most powerful attack he could muster. Boom! A scorpion tail swept across the sun, moon, and stars, crushing countless stars in the nebula. The 5 9-colored pillars of light were directly crushed by it. Lin Chen frowned. Can I? But within the shattered 9-colored stars, Lin Chen saw a massive amount of attribute lights. He was overjoyed. As long as there were attribute light balls, it meant that it was effective. At this moment, Red Scorpion God's primordial spirit was slightly thinner. He scanned the surroundings with his ferocious and violent eyes, looking for Lin Chen's figure. Lin Chen's 9 Calamity Star had triggered Extinction Rupture and Annihilation Explosion, causing a certain amount of damage to him. Boom! At this moment, the wills of the 7 divine dragons gathered and surrounded red scorpion god's primordial spirit. His expression turned gloomy all of a sudden. The insect god's wills that he had called over all ran away. When they realized that they couldn't win the battle, they were highly unified and retreated directly. TSK, TSK, TSK. You're just a general without an army. Let's see how you're going to turn the tides. This human brat is really amazing. He can actually cause damage to our primordial spirit wills, and he has the aura of that ancient dragon. In time, he will definitely overturn the forces of the various races. Haha, that's not something we can worry about. The 7 divine dragons' wills looked at Red Scorpion God, sneered, and swarmed forward. Red Scorpion God roared hysterically and indignantly. Damn it, again and again. Ancient Taishi Dragon, I can't beat you. But does that mean I can't even kill your descendants? I don't believe it. Boom. Bam. 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 Red Scorpion God fought the 7 divine dragons' wills alone, but he became more and more alarmed. The damage to his primordial spirit couldn't be healed, and the wound was expanding. This gave the 7 divine dragons' wills an opportunity to take advantage of. With a loud bang, Red Scorpion God's primordial spirit was besieged and killed. He couldn't even break out of the encirclement and drag Lin Chen down with him. The moment Red Scorpion God was killed, the divine dragon's wills looked at Lin Chen with unconcealable admiration, surprise, and shock. The primordial sky dragon, who had transformed into a man in a black robe, floated in the air and couldn't help but give Lin Chen a thumbs up. Brat, you're really strong. Lin Chen grinned from afar. My little tricks have made the divine dragons laugh. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.